half of the conference will be on display today, all hoping that the Big 12 can have a national championship presence. Brock Osweiler, Greg McElroy, Matt Berry. Happy to be back with you. 8 other schools today. We want to quickly revisit what we saw yesterday. And gentlemen, we're billing with this league because 9 of 16 teams returned them. It's the year of the quarterback in this league, and we saw it yesterday afternoon.
And good luck topping what we had yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, every single guy that we talked to yesterday has a legitimate chance to be an all-conference performer. I mean, that just shows you the depth in this league, the depth of the quarterback play in this league. To visit with Sam Levitt and to sit next to Sawyer Robertson and then to see Brennan Sorsby, who I think is on the cusp of what could be a breakout season. Handful of others, guys that we've now kind of wondering if they can stay healthy. Rocco Beck,
Avery
Johnson. If guys can, Baron Morton, if he can stay healthy, it's like, it's ridiculous. The what ifs in this league are amazing, and the quarterback play is, I think, what makes this league just so incredibly fun to watch.
I completely agree, and I think that's why the Big 12 is going to be so exciting. Not only are we talking about all conference quarterbacks that have a chance to win a Heisman Trophy, but we're talking about quarterbacks that we're going to see drafted to the National Football League and play on Sunday. So the quality of play is at an all-time high in the Big 12, and I think ultimately it's just going to lead to a very exciting season.
I'll tell you, the star power yesterday towards the end of the day, 4:30, 5 o'clock Eastern, I was looking over the corner of the star here, and there was a scrum, a 2-3 deep scrum. I'm like, who's over there? What did Dion get here? Who is it? It was Sam Levitt. And Levitt had 5 reporters deep after he had been here all day. So the star power at quarterback is truly remarkable. One of the headlines coming out of day one, Brett Yormark, commissioner, as is customary, does a state of the conference address. And I'll tell you what, Yormark, aggressive out of the gate with what he thinks his conference will do this year.
And once again, I believe we will be the deepest football conference in America. No league offers the competitive balance that we do. I fully expect the Big 12 to earn multiple college football playoff bids this year and to show once again that we can compete with anyone.
The buzz term here in Frisco is competitive balance, and I think it is a legitimate conversation because we sat here yesterday and said 7, 8 teams could win this conference. So I think the competitive balance of the league is in a good spot. They have to be happy about that. We'll see how that goes throughout the year when it comes to killing each other off, for lack of a better term. So as we embark on day 2 now and some of the teams that we're going to be talking about, Greg, what kind of stands out to you today for storylines?
Well, there's a handful. I think you have a couple of coaches that are looking for a big bounce back. I think that's something I'm real curious about. There's no one here that has any disrespect for Brent Brennan at all from a coaching standpoint, but year 1, for whatever reason, just never really materialized, especially with so many returning players. So I'm looking forward to kind of talking to him today. Hey, what's the plan in year 2? How different can it look? Mike Gundy, preseason favorites last year. They end up 0-9 in the conference. They had 18 returning starters coming into this place last year. And then Willie Fritz, who in year 1 had some moments there kind of mid to late season, but just never really could put it together for 12 games. So I think 3 coaches that are coming into this season with something to prove, and I'm looking forward to kind of hearing what kind of push they're going to have from a narrative standpoint today.
Yeah, I'm with you, Greg. You know, you think back to the teams yesterday, it's kind of all the front runners, if you will, to win the conference. But think back to a season ago. Nobody was talking about Arizona State. They end up winning the conference title. So who is the Arizona State of this season? Is it a Utah? You know, we get to visit with Rich Rodriguez, who's back at West Virginia. How exciting is that? So I think we also have a great lineup today.
Hey, Rich Rod's got a quarterback coming back in Markio. We'll talk about him a little bit. He's got one of the best running backs in the league. So you're right. There's a team out there that perhaps isn't getting the national attention now that, like you said, with Arizona State, maybe week 8, week 9, we're like, wait a second, you better start talking about them. You know who we're also going to be talking about? Katie George all day. She is with us throughout the afternoon. She'll be with the players throughout the afternoon. Hi, Katie.
Hi, good morning, guys. Similarly to yesterday, we'll have players from all 8 programs that are here today stop by this set to catch up, give us an update on how things are going ahead of fall camp. It's defensive heavy to start. We get going with Oklahoma State and Arizona. Then we'll get a chance to visit with all Big 12 offensive lineman Spencer Fano. Greg will have 2 quarterback breakdowns with Kansas's Jaylen Daniels and TCU's Josh Hoover. And then we'll get to hear from Colorado's new addition to the QB room in Caden Salter. We round out the day with Houston, and we'll also get to visit with Big 12 Chief of Football and Competition, Scott Draper. So as you guys know, another very fun day ahead here in Dallas, Matt.
Oh, yeah, Colorado. They're here today. What a storyline that'll be. They got the highly touted true freshman Julian Lewis. They've got a guy competing with him in Caden Salter. We'll get into all of that this afternoon. You know what comes with Colorado, right? Their head coach, Coach Prime. He's going to join us as we take a look now at the coaching schedule, who will be up here with us on set. We're going to get it started. The Rich Rod reunion. If you want college football in a nutshell, do research on how Rich Rod ended back in 2007, and the fact that he's even back in Morgantown is remarkable. Lance Leipold has Kansas in a healthy spot. Sonny Dykes, they ended the season quite strong. Mike Gundy, you mentioned him, great. 21 years in Stillwater. Can he have a bounce-back season as with Brent Brennan? Maybe one of the best program builders in the country. Willie Fritz is going to join us at 1:30. Then a mainstay in college football, Kyle Whittingham at 2 p.m. Eastern, and then Deion Sanders wraps it up at 3:25 p.m. Eastern. We talked about him a moment ago with the State of the Conference address. He will join us up here live on set. Brett Yormark, commissioner of the Big 12, doing remarkable things with this 16-team league. They believe they've got the confidence to get 2 teams in the college football playoff. We'll talk with the commissioner and more as we are off and running day 2 Big 12 Media Days here from the Star in Frisco, Texas.
Right.
Right.
So it's going to take 2.5 years to normalize.
Right.
You know, everything is bigger and better in the great state of Texas, and that's what the Big 12 has done for us the past couple of days. The Big 12 football media days. Here's what I love about what the Big 12 has done, and Brent, you all marked their commissioner, kind enough to join us now. Commissioner, I love that you guys are first out of the gate. There's something to be said about that college football Jones we all have right now, and you guys provided us the opportunity to talk ball in the first week of July, and that's incredible.
We love it. And, I inherited it. But I like going first because I think, candidly, I can go on the offense, and everyone after me plays defense.
And you did. You went on the offense yesterday with a couple of things I want to talk about.
My opening comments were well prepared and on point from a Big 12 perspective, and we love where we're going. We love the trajectory of this conference, and we're excited about the season.
So I want to ask you a bit of a tough question because we all agree that this conference, top to bottom, is loaded. And we sat here yesterday and said maybe 9 teams could win the thing. Yeah. So with respect to that, there are 2 teams good enough to make the college football playoff from this league. But when it's so competitively balanced, is there a concern that there could be 4 10-2 teams, 3 9-3 teams, and a 10-2 team, because it is so competitively balanced from the top to the middle?
I'm not overly concerned about that right now, and I talked to the coaches about it. I think over time we're going to have schools that emerge to the top. But right now, I think the depth of this conference, the competitive spirit from top to bottom, is critically important for us as we continue to build our product. But over time, we're going to have those schools that are part of the national conversation year in and year out. And I expect that to happen this year. I really do.
What did Arizona State do for this league last year with how they came from the bottom to the top and an all-time great in the playoff?
It was unbelievable. And I saw it coming week in and week out. They got better. And I would call the coach, and he said, Brett, we're not there yet, but we're getting better. We disadvantaged them when we did the media poll to start the season, candidly.
Oh, yeah.
They were picked 16th, as you all know. And in this world of the portal, no one knows really what they have until you get on the field. So we disadvantaged them. And as we stated yesterday or earlier last week, we're no longer doing the media poll starting the season. But I'm excited about Arizona State. They got Sam Leavitt back, probably one of the premier quarterbacks in the country. And I expect big things from them.
Well, I think you're right. And I think people started to wake up around November 1st. But by that point, they'd already lost 8 weeks of quality equity where they could have been, hey, Arizona State doing things special there in September as well. You were really adamant yesterday about the 5+11 model. I love that. I want that. That's how we've consumed football forever. I'm far more concerned about a full audit of the selection process. And I want to know, what do you prioritize? What do you value when talking to the future committee members? What do you want them to prioritize when it comes to selecting those 16 teams?
Strength of schedule matters to me.
Yeah.
I was pretty outspoken about it last year, and I will be moving forward. But as I said yesterday in my opening comments, I have a lot of faith in the selection committee, and I always have. But they do need to go through a full audit. They need to figure out how do they modernize and contemporize what they do. Are they using the right data? Do they have the right metrics? Are certain metrics weighted more so than others? And I know they're going through that full audit this year. Mack Rhodes, obviously AD at Baylor, is the new chair. And he is committed to doing the right thing. He is committed to turning it upside down and making it better. And I have a lot of faith in Mack and his colleagues that they're going to get it right.
Commissioner, so many things to be excited about with the Big 12 this year. We just talked about the competitive balance when you look at the conference top to bottom with all 16 teams. But I think another thing, as a former quarterback and analyst who's in the booth and just really a fan of the game, you can really kind of call this the conference of the quarterback. Talk to me a little bit and how much it means to you as the commissioner to look across the landscape of the Big 12 and you see all of these talented quarterbacks that are going to compete not only for all conference honors, All-American, and maybe even the Heisman Trophy.
Well, we have 9 returning quarterbacks. I mentioned that yesterday, all through for over 240 yards last year. When you think about the Power 4, they have 11 combined outside the Big 12.
Yeah.
So you're right. This is the conference of quarterbacks. We're excited about it. And it creates a lot of excitement around our games. They're high-scoring games, and we have a lot of talent at that position, and I think we lead college football when you think about quarterbacks.
One of the things that I love that you always say, and I think the viewers would be interested to kind of branch out a little bit on it, you're very honest about saying the Big 12 is open for business. You said that from day one. You said it again yesterday. So for those watching, what does that mean when you say the Big 12
I should
is
have
open for
trademarked
business?
it.
You should have.
And by the way,
you really should have.
I was a rookie commissioner. I got up there, and when I said open for business, I just meant we're going to explore every and all possibilities to reinvent and reimagine this conference. And that's what I meant. Because candidly, I came from the business side of sport.
Which is what it needed.
And that's what we needed to inject and infuse into this conference. it was somewhat taken out of context at the moment because we were going through realignment, or at least it had started at that point in time. But when I mean open for business, I mean we are going to explore every and all possibility to continue to grow our brand, to grow our profile, to grow our commercial business, to drive more value for our member institutions, and all that comes underneath open for business.
Yeah, and a first year without realignment. I mean, when you look around the landscape, I mean, there was realignment every other hour. But the stability, and I would say this, that last bit of realignment for this conference, when you brought in the Arizonas, you brought in Colorado, Utah, you brought in that stable of schools, to me, that's what solidified this league now that was in trouble 3-4 years ago, as you know, to now being a 16-team power conference.
I agree. You know, if you think about it, we've introduced to our conference 8 new schools over the last 2 years. There's a lot of work that goes behind that. But I think the 4 corners, to your point, really solidified us. They made us into a national conference, big brands, big markets, big profiles, and that's only created a lot of value for this conference. And I mentioned that yesterday. I mean, all 16 schools contributed to the Big 12 last year, but the 4 corners did a remarkable job in year 1.
Well, speaking of a national conference, you also want this to be a global conference, and you're doing some very special things with that. Why is that so important to you?
Well, I think we can win globally. You know, you look at our student athletes, 11% of them come from outside the U.S. So there's a recruiting hotbed out there across the world. Yeah. We're playing in Ireland, you know, in August. We'll return there next year when TCU hosts North Carolina. Women's basketball at Baylor will kick off their season in Paris this year. Wow. And we're in final negotiations to play baseball in Mexico City next spring. So I feel it's a market that we can own as a conference, and one that's truly important.
It's amazing to me how willing you are and how nimble you are. And in this rebound, I got to give credit to not just you, but to Bob Bowlesby as well. I mean, the pivot, I'm from Dallas, Texas. I'm a Big 12 guy. I grew up going to Red River rivalry and loving it. So I grew up in this league, but the league that I grew up is very different, but the rebranding has been absolutely phenomenal. So a tip of the cap to how you guys have handled all this. But I am curious, as you move forward in an ever-changing landscape, what do we need to solve? What's our biggest hurdle right now as college football fans from a commissioner's perspective?
Well, there's a lot going on. I mentioned that yesterday. We're working at a new governance model. Obviously, we have the settlement, which was recently approved, and now we have to enforce those rules. And then we obviously have the CFP, which is an ongoing conversation. Yeah. But I think we've got to get enforcement right. Yeah. We've got to put guardrails around this thing. So, in fact, it's an even playing field across the board. And that is, in theory, what we are trying to create, an even playing field. And we have to change behavior within college athletics. Mm-hmm. Certainly we have to do that. And Brian Seeley, the CEO of the College Sports Commission, has a big job. And I'm a big fan of his. He's the right guy at the right time for this role. And, listen, if you break the rules, it's going to be punitive. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we've got to come hard after that. And that's, to me, the biggest priority right now.
For this league nationally and just within its steps of growth, what would you like to see next?
Listen, I'm happy but never satisfied. Yeah. And I want to continue to see this conference evolve. And I think we have an incredible future in front of us. And that's why, getting back to the CFP format, why should I cap how many participants we can have in the CFP? Why would I do that?
Why would you let someone get 50% more than 100%, you?
100%, and for 6 years. When I know that our schools are investing at the highest levels, our product is getting better. It might not be ideal for us today, but I'm playing the long game here.
I would tell you, my phone, I've gotten a couple of texts from some people that would like entry into the conference. We can talk about that at some other time. There's some other schools around there that are like, hey, the Big 12 looks fun. I kind of want in on that. I was like, well, I'm not the guy to get that done. But it's been great. I tell you what, the setup here in Texas, phenomenal. Yeah. The great state, everything's big. Convenient, coaches love it, we love it, so congratulations on this event. Now, having said that, maybe Vegas probably would have been more, it would have been better for him in his blackjack situation.
I'm not coming home to Dallas, too.
We did the Vegas thing last year, and it was fantastic. Yeah. But there's something about being in Texas that matters to us. And, I polled our 8 coaches yesterday, and across the board they said, Brett, you got to keep bringing it to Texas. Yeah. And I'm sure they'll say the same today.
Every single one of them said, like,
he can do a remote from Vegas by himself. We'll come to Dallas.
All of them said, the coach said, like, where this is located, it was easy for everyone to just come down here, have a great meal, have fun. Brett Yormark, Commissioner of Big 12, thank you so much for everything.
Thank you for having me.
We're excited about the league this year. We're excited about another season of college football. So much more. We are just getting kicked off. Day 2, Big 12 Media Days. here in Frisco, Texas. The coaches are going to start coming through soon. We'll have that when we return here on ESPN. I mean, what a top-notch facility here. Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys gracious enough to let the Big 12 host their media days here. Up in Frisco, Texas, DFW America, Brock, Greg, and Matt back with you. We're here till, was it 4 p.m. Eastern?
Sounds about right.
That's going to be fun. Coaches, players, everything in between. Let's say hi again to Katie George. It's going to be an exciting season again, Katie, for this conference.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Matt. And I'm here with Scott Draper. Scott, so good to be with you. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. So you are the Chief Football and Competition Officer of the conference. What does that title entail?
Yeah, I have the opportunity to oversee all of our sports, but on the football side, all the operations of our football programs, the football scheduling, the bowl relationships, all the operations of our conference operations in terms of football. So this is my 33rd year of college football. So we've had, looking forward to a great season this year.
In 33 years, college football has changed a great deal.
It really has. And it changed in the last 5 years, really, since COVID. And I think you're going to see another big shift, obviously, with revenue sharing started in July. But we've got some work to do as an industry to get our football calendar right. You heard our coaches talk about that a lot yesterday, where the transfer portal window should be, we've advocated for a January window, 1 January window. Those decisions are really, really key and important to get done by August before the season starts.
Where do you feel like your attention and focus is most given in your role?
Yeah, on those things right now. I think we this time of the year, obviously Media Day kicks off the season for us, but there's so much work to be done. CFP, Brett's talked a lot about that. All of those decisions that are happening now will impact what our season looks like, not just this year, but in the future. We've got to build a schedule for the 2026 season. We've got to know what the format is, what the CFP format is. So there's so many things that have to get done, and our focus right now is on those things.
You guys kick off the season in Dublin.
I know, how great, right?
It's amazing. I had the opportunity to cover last year's game over there, and I absolutely love the experience. You'll have Iowa State and Kansas State kicking off over there.
Yeah.
How important is an international game like that for the overall conference's brand?
We have made it a point over since Brett got here of taking our league global, and to have two iconic brands playing in Ireland to kick off the season in a rivalry game. I'm not sure that's ever happened, and so we're excited about that. And then next year TCU plays North Carolina in Ireland, and we're working on others that other football games potentially maybe next year and other years to play in Europe as well. So lots of opportunity for us. It's a big focus of the league, not just in football. We've got women's basketball playing in Paris. We've got baseball in Mexico. So we've got a lot of things going on.
Week 0, week 1 for the conference is no joke.
Right.
Your teams will play, I think, 14 Power 4 teams then week 1 in some of those marquee matchups. What just impressed you with the scheduling, especially in those non-conference matchups?
Well, if you know, Cincinnati and Nebraska playing in Arrowhead on Thursday night will kick off our week 1 series for us. Auburn and Baylor, Georgia Tech and Colorado, TCU, North Carolina on Labor Day Monday. So it's the way for us to start the season, get off on the right foot. Those games matter. Those games matter for the end of the season and how we're viewed in the CFP. So there's lots of week 1 and week 2 matchups for us that mean a lot to us.
You guys did away with preseason rankings.
We did.
What led to that decision?
Yeah, I think the coaches have talked about it, and Brett has talked about it. Really, it's a narrative that was unnecessary in starting the season. You don't know who you have because of the way college football is right now. So it was really not a thing that helped our league last year. But at the end, you know, it is what it is, and for us, we're as excited about the teams we have and the competitive balance, and I think that led a lot to, you know, who the best teams are.
Competitive balance is a phrase that we've heard quite a bit throughout, these 2 days here in Dallas. For you, given the fact that you've been around college football for so long, do you feel like this conference, competitive balance is at its best that you've seen since being in the Big 12?
I think this will be the best year we've had, we'll have this year in terms of the players in the league, across the league. I think last year, with the 4 new schools from the Pac-12, everyone was just still trying to figure each other out. So I think this year, with the players we have, the quarterbacks in the league, not just the quarterbacks, but the coaches that we have in the league, will really make for competitive football early in the season, and then those teams will find their stride. And November was always a great time for the Big 12. Last year we had 7 teams going into the final weekend of the season that all could have played in Arlington in our championship game. So that's kind of who we are, and we embrace that.
Just quickly, last question. You mentioned the quarterbacks. How beneficial is it for a conference overall when you have 9 incredible quarterbacks? Well,
college football in particular, is a quarterback sport, right? And you see it when you have a great one, what it can do for you. And we have, the quality of a player, returning quarterbacks that have played well last year, have had some additions to their team, skill-wise. I expect us to be really, really fun to watch.
Awesome. Well, we can't wait to watch. Scott, thank you so much for stopping by and taking the time. We appreciate it.
See you.
Matt?
Scott, Katie, great stuff. Thank you. Look, you can talk about, and we forget about last year. He's right. 7 teams going to the final weekend of the season were in conversation to play for the Big 12 championship. But to me, and I'd love to hear your guys' take on this, because your conference can be as good as it wants within the conference, right?
Yeah.
But to me, the validity of the power of the league happens in your out-of-conference games. And so if the Big 12, as Brett Yormark was saying, wants to be among the elite in college football, Cincinnati's got to go beat Nebraska.
Yeah.
I mean, these are the kind of games we're talking about for the Big 12 to kind of assert themselves as one of the best leagues in the country.
Yeah, I think that's key because we always overreact to the early season games, most of which are non-conference, and we oftentimes probably draw too many conclusions from those games. But Arizona State's got to go on the road. They got to get Mississippi State. I think the biggest one personally for me is Auburn and Baylor. I think if Auburn goes to Baylor and gets beat, that's significant because Auburn has invested a ton of money in this upcoming season. It's a massive opportunity. Bill Belichick back at North Carolina, the size of that audience on September 1st, Labor Day Monday, will be enormous. So if they can get off to a great start, frankly, I don't dislike any of their matchups in these games, by the way. Correct. I think they got a great shot to potentially go 4-1 in those 5 games, which would be huge for the league.
Absolutely, and I'm with you, Matt. It really helps validate the power of the conference, and that's what Commissioner Yormark wants. And he talked yesterday, and he said, listen, I think 2 teams are going to get into the college football playoff from the Big 12. Well, in order to do that, you need to go beat the ACC. You need to go beat the SEC, the Big 10, and that's what we get to see week 0, week 1, week 2.
And I would tell you this, and I hate that it's come to this, but it's the day and age of college football. We used to do that with bowl games, right?
Yeah.
Can't do it anymore. Opt-out and portal has taken that a little bit away. So the time to prove the bona fides of your league, weeks 1, 2, and 3 in the season, when you're playing some of these other power conferences. Just getting started. West Virginia, take me home. We've done that. Rich Rodriguez is back at the helm of the Mountaineers. He is going to join us live. Our first coach, Day 2, Big 12 Media Days. We are back. Day 2, Big 12 Media Days. Enter West Virginia into the conversation. 5-4 in league a year ago, 6-7 overall. They lost in their bowl game to Memphis, but then that song, Country Roads, Take Me Home to a Place I Belong, West Virginia. And that's where Rich Rodriguez comes back into the conversation. Second stint at West Virginia, head coach of the Mountaineers, joining us now here. Coach, first of all, welcome back. It's good to see you back at West Virginia. How has it been to be back?
It's been good. Typically, it'll take you maybe 6 to 9 months to kind of get accustomed to the new town. It took me about 6 to 9 minutes. We got a couple new traffic circles in town. I'm still trying to figure those out, but outside of that, it was an easy transition.
You know, I'm curious about that because you left West Virginia, you come back sometime later. Have you allowed yourself to go back in time when you see a store or a spot or a home, and it just brings back some of those memories from the early 2000s?
Yeah, it's a little surreal. It's been so busy, maybe I haven't reflected, and that's probably a good thing. But it's been 17 years. You know, I feel like Forrest Gump. I've been in the desert, been in the bayou, been all over the place. But I'm back home now, and it's been great. Obviously, you know, for our staff, a lot of our staff has been together for a long time. Be able to come back, and it's good to come back to the place that we know you can win at, but also it's home. It's home for us.
Yeah. It's got to be so fun. I know there's just so much energy around your return, and everyone's so excited, us included. But I am curious about your team. I mean, 60 new faces I read.
Yeah, I think it's closer to 70 counting us.
Wow.
I'm still figuring all their names
It's
out.
unbelievable. I mean, how do you know what you have at that point? I mean, you just kind of throw it against the wall. Let's see what works, and just experimentation throughout the spring.
You get a little bit, and half of those weren't here in the spring.
Right.
So you get a little bit of knowledge in summer workouts, but not a whole lot. But August camp is so important that you got to make sure the culture is right. That's first and foremost. And then also, you know, did we evaluate right? All these new guys you brought in, you better make sure you evaluated right, the guys that can play. And we think we did. Now, we'll know for sure, but the one thing that we wanted to make sure we happens in the first year, we established the environment and the culture we have. Coaches use that word all the time, but do they really adhere to it on a daily basis on everything you do? And we're doing that. The players have done a great job of buying into it, and so we'll see what happens.
Coach, we know you know how to score points with the best of them, and with that comes a quarterback competition that started in the spring. What should we expect as you head into fall camp from that quarterback room and that quarterback battle that you have going on?
You know, it's always a position you probably should worry about the most because it is the most important position probably in football, because you got no chance to win if that guy's not pretty good. You know, speaking to a couple of them that know, right? But I think that's probably the room I'm least worried about from an athletic and a talent standpoint. I've got 3 guys that have played some games in college football. I've got a couple really good young players. So we have the talent there. Now, they got to learn our system. They got to obviously get better at individually what they can do. But we got to put the pieces around them as well. So it's going to be a fun quarterback competition. I'm hoping I have 3 I can win with. And I think we do. You know, if I have 2 that we can win with, I'll play both of them. If I have 3, I'll play all 3 of them. But I have a good quarterback room, I think.
You know, you're kind of a blessing and a curse of your own success at West Virginia. We know where you had that program, right? So you come back, and the fans are excited because they know where this program has been under you. How do you balance what we know can be relative to what we know early on might be because of the transition of what you're going to bring?
That's a good question, and I told some folks earlier today. You know, obviously some of our success we had back in the 2000s was a reason they were interested in us coming back. But I think more so is because we won at Jack State the last couple of years. If we didn't win at Jack State the last couple of years, I wouldn't have had this opportunity.
Yeah.
So I know there's some nostalgia going on there, and we had some great times, and we had a great run. And can we bring some of that excitement back? We can, for sure. It's different now in college. It's so transactional. But at the same time, if we work, and I've got to be a better coach. I'm a better coach now than I was a week ago, let alone 17 years ago. But we got to do better as coaches. But we also got to get our players to I don't want to call it the old school way, but buy into the environment that we had back then, where everything was more about us in the team as opposed to individualism and entitlement and all that stuff. There's none of that in our program. We're not going to have entitlement. We're going to work hard. We're going to earn success, and then we'll follow that with some wins.
No, you're going to be a hard hat lunch pail group. That's just the way you've always coached it, knowing you, covering you, been around a long time. But I think people still so fondly remember the Pat White, Steve Slayton, zone read, tempo, unbelievable, high octane offense. How have you evolved philosophically over the last couple of years at Jack State, where I've seen you kind of change and kind of change what you do.
Yeah, some of the stuff is non-negotiable, and like playing hard, and playing hard and not being soft or whatever. But also our tempo is always a part of it, deal, and not going fast all the time, but controlling the tempo. Having a team that's in great condition on all three phases, that's part of it as well. But I think scheme-wise, like, I'm a kind of a football savant. If I look on Twitter or see something on the internet that looks like something that could be implemented and it's a great idea and we could coach it, hey, why not try it? You know what I mean? So, but at the same time, we always end up winding up going back into our core and our base, which is we're going to play with 11, including the quarterback will run a little bit. We're going to play with tempo, and we're going to play really, really hard all the time.
Coach, Greg just said it. You've always been, bring your lunch pail type of guy, and that's the culture you've created. You said to your team when you got to Morgantown, we're going to be mentally and physically tougher than our opponent when we get on the field. How do you create that culture?
It's not easy. It's not just because kids are different today. That's not it. It's just more that, there's so many other things going on in their lives, especially now. People ask, say, gosh, can you coach them now because they're getting paid? Well, hell, you can coach them harder because they're getting paid.
Right.
They got more at stake, right?
Yeah.
And players want to get valued. They say, listen, I'm not. Before you say, I'm going to get you more valuable, so for the next level you get paid. Well, now you get more valuable and get paid more next year or next week. So it's a different dynamic. And as much as old school traditional coach maybe I am at ways, I'm also like, what does today's world look like to these guys? What can we do now with these guys to motivate them to play at their very highest? And I still think that's part of our greatest responsibility as a coach, is that we can take them somewhere where they can't take themselves, and that's what coaching's all about.
So Pat's on staff. He's one of your assistant coordinators. So what's it like having a guy that knows your offense inside out? Kind of be one of those guys that indoctrinates the players.
with Pat and Rasheed Marshall, who played with us, a great player, and Noel Devine is on our staff. I said I didn't hire them for what they did in the 2000s, even though that helped me know them, who they are. I hired them because of what they can do for me now.
Yeah.
The nice part about us having them around is our players hear all the stories about Pat White and Noel Devine and Rasheed Marshall and know what kind of success they had. And when they do a dive into who they were as people and as players and how selfless they were in the program while being stars, that helps us create the environment that we want.
Zach Alley. When Zach Alley going to West Virginia, all of us were like, whoa, what a pull. I mean, that might have been the best recruiting haul of the entire offseason. So what is it about his scheme, what is it about his fit that made you think, all right, this is my guy on defense?
Well, Zach and I worked together.
Right.
Obviously at Monroe, then at Jack State, he did a great job for him. And I remember after the bowl game, the second year, and we won our bowl game at Jack State, and he came to see me and he said, I got an offer to go to Oklahoma. And I'm like, are you going to be the DC? Yeah. Are you going to call the plays? Yeah. And they said, what? I said, what are they paying you? He said, like $1.2 million. I'm like, what are you waiting on? You better get on that plane, right? And so fast forward a year later, and I get the West Virginia job. I said, hey, Zach, I'm at a different place now. Maybe I can compete with Oklahoma. So it worked out great. He was the first key piece to me with our defense, what we wanted to build. And it built the staff and the players from there. And he's a great young coach, and he's doing a great job.
Coach, for the viewers out there who maybe haven't experienced a game day Saturday in Morgantown, I think it's personally one of the most special places in all college football. What makes Morgantown so special?
Let's go Mountaineers. Let's go drink some beers. Scott Van Pelt, right? He asked you about it. It's a very unique environment, very similar to a lot of teams in the South where I've had an opportunity to coach at before. And football is really, really important there. There's no other Power 4 team. There's no pro team. And so West Virginia athletics, West Virginia football is a big deal to a lot of people. And there's a responsibility that we have for them to enjoy it, to win games. And the best way to enjoy it is to win games. And we'll tailgate like nobody else. These Mountaineers, when we play Pitt, there'll be 60,000 in the stadium. It won't be an empty seat.
Yeah.
There'll be 15,000 in the parking lot drinking moonshine and beer, wanting to get in. It'll be a heck of an environment.
So, last one for me. You mentioned Pitt, backyard brawl. I believe one of the top 5 rivalries in all of college football that needs to get more attention. It is so fierce. Had an opportunity to call one 3 years ago when you guys reunited for the first time in a decade. decade. What will that moment be like September 13th? I know you're not looking ahead week 1 and week 2 are there, but
no, I'm
back
not.
In the back.
I'll get reminded about it every other day, you know, not sooner than that. Yeah, there's no question. It is one of the greatest rivalries, and I've been blessed to be a part of some big ones, you know, throughout my career. But you know, there's no question the intensity of it. You know, both both hate each other, and hate's maybe a strong word, but not in this case. But it's one of the things that makes college athletics and college football so neat is the intensity with that rivalry, how important it is. And we're not going to downplay it. Like, I'm not talking about it right now, but we'll have a day dedicated in camp to Pitt. We'll have a day dedicated in summer to Pitt, and then, you know, we'll talk about it quite a bit as a staff.
Let me just tell you, I absolutely love this. This just looks right. And I'd much rather have you there than in Arizona, being a couple of Arizona State guys up here. But good to see you back.
Thank you,
Congratulations
guys.
on everything. Rich Rodriguez, West Virginia. I'm just telling you something. This team with this man back at head coach, West Virginia football's Pat McAfee's going to tell you probably every day for the next 10 years is more than back. Rich Rodriguez, thank you so much for joining us. Still a lot to get to here at Big 12 Media Days. Lance Leipold, head coach, Kansas Jayhawks. If his quarterback stays healthy, who knows what they could rock chalk this year. We'll catch up with Coach Leipold when we return live to Big 12 Media Days in Texas.
Deal.
It really has. It changed in the last 5 years, really, since COVID. And I think you're going to see another big shift, obviously, with revenue sharing started in July. But we've got some work to do as an industry to get our football calendar right. You heard our coaches talk about that a lot yesterday, where the transfer portal window should be. We've advocated for a January window, 1 January window. Those decisions are really, really key and important to get done by August before the season starts. This time of the year, obviously, Media Day kicks off the season for us, but there's so much work to be done. See about that. All of those decisions that are happening now will impact what our season looks like, not just this year, but in the future. We've got to build a schedule for the 2026 season. We've got to know what the format is, what the CFP format is. So there's so many things that have to get done, and our focus right now is on those things.
So true story. Early this morning, Osweiler, McElroy, and Matt Berry. I was out there running a route tree for the fellas. We were spinning it. It's Rock Chalk Jayhawk in attendance. Day 2 of Big 12 Media Days. Lance Leipold, head coach of Kansas, 5th year in Kansas, kind enough to join us. Coach, great seeing you.
It's great to be with you.
Happy football season. Hopping right in. How was the offseason to get to the point where you're getting ready to start camp?
You know, we're excited. We had some changes, 2 new coordinators. We had 39 seniors that graduated and moved on and added about 26 transfers. So we're excited. It's a new era. We're moving into a new stadium. A lot of good things and excited to get kicked off in week 0.
And as we all know, and as everyone who follows college football, really the story with your team recently has been your quarterback, Jaylen Daniels. Yeah. Got injuries last year, kind of banged up, but when he's healthy, he's as exciting of a player as he is in the conference.
He is, and Jaylen's healthy and he's ready to go. I'm excited for him. You know, he's been so loyal to the University of Kansas and what he's done to help us turn our program around. He's ready to go. He's excited. And the thing about him is even when things haven't gone well for him, he's never made an excuse. He's never come in. He's the same guy day in and day out, and he's been such a great leader for our program.
It's amazing last year when you watched, there were so many moments where if a ball bounces this way, it's a different animal. It's this way, that way. It was just unlucky. I don't really know how else to describe it. I hate to call it that, but how much have y'all focused on the margins this year to make sure those things fall in your direction?
Well, you're right, Greg. And we talk, and you guys know from playing and everything that, you know, most games are decided between 3 to 5 plays when you really break it down, and it's such a small difference. And last year in the first half of the season, they did not go our way. And we talk about it all the time. You just don't know when those 3 to 5 plays were. Ours were just happened to be late in ball games where we couldn't get a stop. We turned the ball over. Something happened. Yeah. But we stuck together. We persevered through it, and we found a way to finish strong in the season. I'm really proud of that. And we're going to, you know, again, in camp, keep talking situational football and making sure we're at our best when our best is needed.
Coach, the ball didn't bounce your way. You know, we say unlucky the first half of the season, but, you know, end of October, into November, you were arguably the hottest football team in America. Wins over Iowa State, BYU, Colorado.
You did not want to see them.
You didn't, and it was so exciting to watch. How do you do that on a consistent basis?
Well, I think, you know, we use words like culture and things like that a lot these days in college football. But again, it's what your locker room, your upperclassmen, the things about how you go about it day in and day out. And we told our team back in 21 when we were 2-10, we told them the process was going to remain the same. No matter we win, we lose, it's going to stay consistent. And we did, and I think our players embraced that. And we had upperclassmen that talked about it when, you know, in today's world and outside parties trying to reach kids, doing different things, and they start talking about disgruntlement or a fractured locker room. And our guys would say, no, it's not. And they stuck together. And I'm really proud of our staff and our players for finding a way to put it back on track and play some good football down the stretch.
So when you look at it, you're a program builder. It's just what you've done throughout your career. You go to these programs, you build them up, and you win. As we enter year 5 and where you set and what you set to do in Lawrence, where are you going into year 5 with what this could be?
Well, you know, last year, like we said, first of all, we had higher expectations and we didn't reach those. But it's good to have expectations in Kansas because there weren't any before.
That's right.
And to get there, we want to be a consistent winner. You want to be in bowl games consistently, and that's what we need to do. But in the same breath, as you guys know, anyone can win in this conference, and you saw Kenny Dillingham and Arizona State do that last year. Dave Aranda did it in 21 with his Baylor team. TCU made the college football playoff when they were probably going to be a middle-of-the-pack type team. So anybody can do it. We know this conference is so balanced top to bottom, and you got to be there. But we can be one of those teams if we play our best football.
You, over the course of your college coaching career, and Hall of Fame good. I mean, I don't know what else to call it. You're a Hall of Famer, and deservingly so. But you had great continuity within your staff. We've seen turnover the last couple of years. But like you kind of talked about already, the culture's the same, the schemes are the same, we're going to do what we do. But how do you make sure you don't lose some of that, even though you do have new voices on both sides of the ball?
You know, that's a great question, Greg, because there's point, because I didn't know, we had Brian Borland retired as defense coordinator after 18 years of working together. Andy Kolnicki had moved on 2 years ago after 11 years. That's good. But the other part is, you know, and it came to really to my awareness, when you bring in new guys, you get new thoughts and you stimulate. You need to stay to your core. need to stay to what you want to do in your program. But DK McDonald joined us a year ago from the Philadelphia Eagles. He had been with Matt Campbell at Toledo and Iowa State. He's done an outstanding job transitioning in the coordinator role, and he brings new thoughts and ideas that get me to think differently as a head coach. And Jeff Grimes did as a coordinator, but now Jim Zabrowski will take over. Jim was with me from Whitewater and Buffalo. He'll do an outstanding job, and I think it's a balance, and it's a balance of keeping core thoughts and beliefs together, but implementing and changing, because we know this game keeps evolving around us.
Coach, your quarterback, Jaylen Daniels, you know, you go back to the 22 season and really 23 before he got hurt. You know, I felt like he was one of the best players in the country.
Yeah.
And then last season, there were some ups, some downs, some injuries. What have you seen out of him going back to spring ball and as you head to fall camp?
Oh, I see him at probably the most confident and comfortable he's been in a couple of years. I think last year we never really had the whole receiving core and everybody working together. He didn't go through spring that year with a new coordinator. It took us a while to probably get in rhythm of thought process and what we're doing. But Jaylen has never made an excuse, and that's the thing I love about him, is that he doesn't make excuses. He goes about it. I thought he pressed a little bit early in the year, trying to do a little bit more than he really needed to. But I know he's excited, and as you said, I thought he's one of the better players in college football a couple years ago. And right now, he doesn't even really get mentioned in the top in this conference anymore. And I think, you know, as you know, selfishly, of course, for our program, but more importantly for Jaylen, I want this to be a special year for the young man because he deserves it.
You had briefly touched on it here at the beginning. I want you to brag on your new stadium. Talk to us about the new yard.
Well, you know, David Booth Kansas Memorial Stadium has just gone under, you know, really our phase one. We redid some things in our football facilities area. But the stadium, it's going to be special. It's got great sight lines across the board, new premium seating, about $450 million. And I don't know how many other people are, and that's just phase one, guys. So, you know, who's putting that much money in the football, you know, across the country right now other than Kansas? And to think that the University of Kansas would make that investment in football 5 years ago was probably never even on the radar. So Travis Goff, Chancellor Girard have done a great job, and it's going to be exciting to get it kicked off in week 0.
It's going to be awesome. We can't wait to see it. Remember those renderings a couple years ago? Really?
Yeah.
All right. Leipold's got them going. Let's go, baby.
They're building a yard.
Look, there's also something that's coming up this year that I think all of us are college football fans are really fired up about. That's the game against Missouri. And knowing that rivalry is back on the table, one that I grew up with as a Big 12 fan, it's now back. I know it means a lot to your program and a lot to the people in Lawrence and around the state. What does it mean to you?
Well, you know, rivalry games are what makes college football so special and in of itself. And I didn't really realize when I first got to Lawrence that the Kansas-Missouri game was more of a rivalry than Kansas State.
Yeah.
But now with the two teams in conference, you know, we've got to do a better job making that a balanced one in the in-state rivalry. But to go to Columbia this year will be special. I'm sure there's a lot of people on both sides of it. They're going to be fired up, and to see some of these rivalries get renewed is special. And again, will be a great time, and we'll be looking forward to it.
You're right. It's what makes college football college football. We're not going to change that, even with all the changes around the sport. The rivalries still make this great. Lance Leipold, head coach, Kansas coach, so good catching up with you again. August 23rd, you get going early.
Yep.
I mean, you're right out of the gate against Fresno State, so get a little bit of vacation and force time to play ball.
We got a few more days.
That's it. Get some fishing and hunting. And Lance Leipold, appreciate you making time for us. Kansas Jayhawks with their quarterback and their coach, going to be exciting to watch. Speaking of quarterback and coach, you heard Coach Leipold bring it up. TCU a few years ago, they were the darling of college football. Sonny Dykes has his quarterback back. He's going to join us up here on set next as we continue live from Frisco, Texas. Rolling on here at Big 12 Media Days in Frisco, Texas, a home game for Fear of the Frog. I'm just telling you, at the end of last year, TCU, you wanted no piece of Hoover and those Power Frogs. 9-4, 6-3 in the conference, tied for 5th in the Big 12. And with what Sonny Dykes has coming back, especially at the quarterback position, you can bet things are healthy in Fort Worth, as we are pleased to welcome in Sonny Dykes, head coach. TCU, good seeing you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's always this time of year where you get the itch to talk college football. Now, we're all Vegas guys, but I can imagine you like just driving right up the road to Media Days and hanging out with us.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, it was nice. We got away for a little bit, had a little vacation, and flew back into DFW last night, and here we are today, and it's nice to be able to get in the car and drive.
What are coaches' vacations like now?
Short. Short and, and usually eventful because, you're fielding some phone calls and there's just so much weird things going on. But it's great, though. I got to spend a bunch of time with the family and we had a great break.
I touched on it there as we were going through your season review, how you guys ended the season. You guys were one of those teams that we just talked to Lance Leipold. You didn't want to touch you guys at the end of the season. How might something in the momentum that you started to build with the returning quarterback kind of catapult you into the offseason and now?
Yeah, I think the big thing for us last year, we were sitting there at 3-3, not playing very good football, and really we were all disappointed, all looking for answers, and I think our guys understood what we needed to do to win, and that was quit turning the ball over and create some turnovers defensively, and we sold that to our players. We had an open week before we had to go play Utah, and we turned the ball over 12 times in 3 games, which is hard to do.
Yeah.
We had to try really hard to do that. And once we quit doing that, we had a pretty good football team. And so our guys understand the value of that, how important it is now. They're emphasizing that in the conversations they have with each other, as players are coaching each other in the OTAs over the summer. They're talking about ball security and stripping the ball and doing all the things. So I think they've learned how important it is to our success.
Yeah, the turnover margin is such a huge part of the storyline for y'all last year. But it also, I think, too, with the offense. When you take the ball out of Josh Hoover's hand, it's like, all right, the defense, you gave him one by handing it off. But I feel like your offense at its best has really dynamic run game and a rushing attack that can really keep you honest and actually wear you out if it gets going. How do you get back to creating a little more balance offensively this year?
Yeah, that was the disappointing thing for us offensively last year. We went into the season thinking we'd be able to run the ball better than we did, and it just never happened. And it was frustrating, very frustrating for us. Josh had to do more than he was probably ready to do early on. And as we started to get settled in a little bit, play a little bit better defense, took some pressure off of him. As that happened, we quit turning the ball over, and as that happened, we had a pretty good football team. And so we got to be able to run the football, as you said, Greg. When we can run the ball, we're a pretty good football team. And we need to be able to run the ball when people know we're going to run it.
Yeah.
And we have to be a little bit more physical. We got to do a better job at the running back position, finishing runs, and then we got to call it more.
Coach, a lot of conversation about your quarterback this offseason, Josh Hoover, and rightfully so. One of the best players in the entire country. But he loses a couple key pieces from the wide receiver room to the NFL draft. Who emerged in spring ball, and who should we expect to see this fall step up in that wide receiver room?
Yeah, like our group. Eric McAllister, who's here with us today, is a guy that was a big play waiting to happen last year. He did a tremendous job. In really a limited amount of time. Very, very productive player. He's got great range, great catch radius, can do things with the ball after he catches it. So he should have a big year and really gotten more mature, has gotten more strong and more physical. Excited about him. Jordan Dwyer's a transfer that's been really, really successful. A kid that came in and saw really good things from him this spring. And then Joseph Manjack came to us from Houston. And then we have some really young freshman guys that are starting to develop. Dozier Zakama is a really, really talented young receiver, and some guys that are really starting to come into their own as well. So I really like the room. Not as much experience maybe as we had last year, but I think guys that are capable.
We've seen it. We saw it at Arizona State last year. We saw it out of you guys. We saw it out of Baylor, in that on any given year, any team is capable of winning this conference. How would you describe the Big 12 from Team 1 to Team 16?
Yeah, chaotic, but deep. You know what I mean? I think that's what makes this league different. When's the last time the two teams that are picked to win the SEC finished last, and when's the last time the team that was picked to win the SEC finished first?
Yeah.
That didn't happen in the SEC. It doesn't happen in the Big 10, but it's happened in the Big 12, and it's happened several times over the last couple of years. Very, very competitive league, very deep league. You're going to have to play well every week. You know, the key to winning a championship in this league is winning one-score games. You're going to play a lot of one-score games.
Yep.
And so it's going to come down to the little things that determine games. Turnovers, red zone offense, defense, you know, being great in the 2-minute drill, you know, being able to run the football consistently, you know, being able to run the clock out at the end of games. All those things are incredibly important in this league.
I'm not sure there's anybody outside of maybe Gundy that can answer this question better. Seeing, though, from your perspective, you've been at different places within the league.
Yep.
And you've seen the league evolve from your time at Texas Tech to watching on the outside, now being back in TCU. Where is the league now as far as the style of play that's ultimately going to win it? Because it feels more line of scrimmage than it's ever been before.
Yeah, you know, I think so. I think, you know, you go back to my time in the 2000s with Mike Leach. Coming into the league, it was a 21 personnel I formation league.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, 4 or 5 years later, it was an air raid league. Everybody had some kind of version of the air raid. And I think the league lost a little bit of that physical nature that it takes to go out and win at a very high level. What made our team competitive and gave us a chance to play for a national championship at 22 was we were a line of scrimmage football team. You know, we were really good up front. We ran the football. We were physical. We weren't necessarily big on defense, but we played aggressive enough to give ourselves a chance up front. I think that we're trying to get back to that. You know, I like our offensive line. I like our backs. We're bigger. We can finish runs better. I like our defense scheme-wise. We can match up better at corner now, which allows us to do more things up front. But to be great and to win at the very highest level, you have to win the line of scrimmage. You know, we beat Michigan in 22 because we stopped the run. And we made them do something they weren't comfortable doing. Now, we had to outscore them, but it gave us a chance to win that football game. And so, you know, it has to be a line of scrimmage league to compete at the very highest level.
Yeah, and to that point, your defensive coordinator, Andy Avalos, he's now year 2. You know, he's implemented his system, and you talk about stopping the run. What did you see out of your defense in spring ball in regards to working towards stopping that run, winning the line of scrimmage as you head into fall camp?
Well, I think the big thing for us, as you said, is year 2 now, having consistency at the coordinator position. Our guys know what to do, how to do it. Now we can be much more aggressive in what we want to do up front as far as line movement goes, as far as stacking the box and line of scrimmage and creating favorable matchups for us defensively. We match up better at the corner position, a lot more depth than we've had. You look at the 22 team, you know, we really had 2 corners that we could play with. I was probably the 3rd corner, and that's not good. I'm not good at backpedaling, you know what I'm saying? I've got great speed.
You're a squat corner. You can play cover 2. You can handle that. Yeah.
But, you know, and so we've got 6 or 7 corners this year that we really feel good about. And so the depth that we have defensively, being the 2nd year, being further along in the scheme, understanding the scheme, I think is going to allow us to do more things defensively, which is going to make it harder for people to run the ball against us.
You open up Labor Day weekend against North Carolina and Bill Belichick, and I think you understand this because you've been in the big game before.
Yeah, oh yeah.
How many eyeballs that's going to get because of the other?
It's going to be a lot.
I mean, that's a great showcase for your team.
It is. Yeah, it's going to be on Labor Day, Monday. I think it's the only football game on that day, if I'm not mistaken. And so, obviously, it's going to garner a lot of attention because of Coach Belichick, and deservedly so. We're going to need to handle that better. You know, we were Deion's first game, and we did not handle that well. Our guys, I didn't do a good job getting our team ready for all the stuff that came along with that game. We're certainly going to be prepared for that this go around. And, you know, we're going to have to be really well prepared for what's going to happen between the lines as well. You know, they're going to be very well coached. We're not going to have a great idea of what they're going to do scheme-wise. But the big part for us is going to be the mental part of the game and making sure our guys are focused on what happens between the lines.
By the way, that game, 6 p.m. Eastern, ESPN, Matt Joey, pregame halftime for you. A little plug for that one.
Easy.
I have to let the viewer know this story quickly. Who is one of your emerging friendships in Fort Worth right now?
Billy Bob Thornton. Yeah, you know, they're filming Landman around here. Taylor Sheridan's the Fort Worth guy, went to Pascal High School, basically across the street from TCU's campus. So it's been fun watching all the movie stars and stuff parade through Fort Worth.
Is it true that John Hamm's house is actually your house in Landman?
No, it's not true. That's definitely not true. You know what's funny, though? I saw that. I'm like, man, that's a pretty sharp-looking house.
Not bad.
Who has that house?
Let's throw a low ball at that one. Let's try.
And why is it not mine? Have Billy Bob do one of his Friday Night Light speeches for it. Fantastic.
Exactly. Don't think that hadn't crossed my mind.
Do it. Sonny, great seeing you.
Yeah, you guys.
Good luck this season. Cannot wait for week week 1, ESPN against North Carolina. Continued success. Good luck the rest of the way. Sonny Dykes, head coach, TCU, with us here in Frisco, Texas. We're going to keep this coaching car wash going. Coming up next, if he had a child when he started as head coach, it's now drinking age. 21 years, Mike Gundy, the head coach at Oklahoma State. He's going to join us next here on Media Days. Big 12 Media Days, pistols firing for Oklahoma State and the Cowboys. Mike Gundy, year 21, as I say, going into the commercial break. He is now of drinking age at 21 years in one place. And the Oklahoma State Cowboys look at a rebound from last year. As Mike Gundy kind enough to join us here on set as we keep moving through our Big 12 Media Days, day 2 with our coaches. Coach Gundy, good seeing you. Do we want to address anything from last year, or should we just move on to this year? It's up to you. I'm going to give you the choice.
We can discuss it. It might take a while. I don't know if you wanted to move forward, but really last year, we couldn't make adjustments in the middle of the season defensively, and that wasn't all Brian's fault. Part of that was my fault. We made some changes schematically that we probably weren't as good at. I had him do some things that might have put him in a bad situation. And then offensively, we didn't throw it good enough. You don't throw it good enough, you can't run the football. We had a really, really good running game that we weren't able to use. Teams started to figure that out, putting 1-2 people in the box. Couldn't take advantage of coverage on the outside, and bad combination. So we addressed those issues, made some changes, as you know.
Yep.
Those guys come in with new staffs, and we're back at it.
You know, I think that's an interesting point, because I just talked about how long you'd been at Oklahoma State. But even coaches grow year in and year out the way you want your players to grow. How have you, from last year to now, maybe taken a self-assessment of what went on last year to make you a better coach in your mind this year?
So one advantage I had, I've done this a long time, and so I'm to a point now I can take the pride out of it, and I'm willing to look and say, you know what, that was my fault.
Yeah.
And I you know, when we let go of Brian Nardo, our defense coordinator, I told him, I said, look, half of this is my fault. Unfortunately, I have to make a change.
Yeah.
And so in having that experience, I can take a step back. It gives me a chance to identify things we need to correct and then how to go about it. So you learn to grow. I really believe this, that it takes about 10 years, in my opinion, to become a good head coach, where you can ride the wave and be comfortable in an uncomfortable situation.
Right.
So, like, I have to be comfortable with people thinking I'm not very smart. Why did you do that? Why'd you hire that guy? That was a terrible play call. Because that's the way it works in big-time college athletics.
But it's uncommon, though, to get that 10-year period. I mean, you've done 10 years twice at Oklahoma.
Right.
That's an uncommon thing for you to be able to have that.
It's hard to get there. You know, people ask me, you know, do you ever fear and worry about your job? I did in year 2 and 3 because I didn't get to that second contract yet.
Oh.
Once you get to the second contract, you start to feel a little better. And I never really have thought about it much, but it's extremely difficult now. I said this 3 or 4 years ago. The challenge with ADs is how do you evaluate a coach with NIL, because it matters how much you're paying players, and portal transfer. You can get beat up in the portal and be a good coach and only win 4 games. Mm-hmm. So they have a really difficult job now to evaluate coaches, so it's hard.
Well, as far as evaluating coordinators, you bring in 2 guys that are no strangers to the landscape of college football. Todd Grantham returning, love what he does defensively. He'll blitz you every down, and I hate that, but I love that at the same time. And then with Doug Meacham back offensively, what went into selecting those 2 guys in particular to kind of lead their sides of the ball?
So when I got on the market for a defensive coordinator, that's not my background, and I have experience. I'm smart enough to call people and ask questions. So I called coaches, one of them you know real well, and the majority said, you should hire this guy. I didn't know who the guy was, and I didn't even know where he was. And they said, well, he coaches for the Saints. So I had to start trying to find Todd Grantham. Came in very, very highly regarded from very good defensive coaches. And then at that point, he says, I need to bring these 7 guys with me.
That's it? Only 7?
And so, but that's the trend now,
Yeah,
right? Like when I hired Jim Knowles 5-6 years ago, he came by himself. Doesn't happen much anymore. So Todd had a plan. He knows his language, his system, his terminology, bringing guys in that have been with him at some point, and they take off. Doug Meacham has been with me.
Yeah.
So Doug and I are familiar with each other. The systems that we run is very similar to what we did in the past. It's going to be built around quarterback play anyway. You know, in the days of the portal, people say, well, what kind of quarterback you're recruiting? I'm trying to find a guy that can win games, and then I'll build a system around him, because you're not going to have, I don't think you're going to have the luxury of just recruiting prototype quarterbacks, because they're not going to stay if they're not the guy they're going to leave.
Right.
So both those guys are experienced. They brought their staff with them. Unfortunately, that meant there was a number of good football coaches that were on my staff that had to not be there anymore because of the way things are, but they'll surface. But long story short, I'm comfortable with both coordinators. Things are going good. It's going to be exciting in August. See, we have 65 new players. Wow. 35 of them just got here June 1st.
Wow.
18 of that 35 are transfers.
My gosh.
So you have to think, okay, those 18 need to be playing, or we shouldn't have brought them in here.
Right.
So just think about 18 guys that should be playing in the first game. I've never even seen them practice.
New coordinators, new assistants.
Is that all?
It's just like it's always been. It's on the roster.
Yeah.
You know, to that point, I'm curious, what have you seen in your quarterback room? What should we expect when you guys kick off week 1?
So neither one of these guys have ever taken a snap for Oklahoma State. First time that we're in that mode now. Zane was with us, but was injured for the most part of last year. People kept wondering why we weren't playing Zane in games, and Zane had a bad foot, couldn't practice much, couldn't play. And then we bought Hoss in from TCU, and he was with us in spring ball. And then we had a couple other quarterbacks that played last year, and they portaled and went to other schools. And then so we transferred in another one, and then we just signed another one the other day to come in as like a fourth. But those guys are new to our system.
Yeah.
So you think about that. You have 2 guys that have been here since January, so they know a little bit about the system, and then 2 guys that don't even know the playbook. And that's where we're at now. So our goal will be try to come to the conclusion of who gives us the best chance to score points about halfway through August, and then move the system that we have in place and build it around what their strengths are.
How the hell do you have such a good head of hair with all this going on? I'm surprised it hasn't all fallen out.
Good genes.
I mean, I'm telling
Good
you.
genes. You know what's interesting? I think it's energized me.
Yeah.
Like, it's new. It's interesting, and the stuff that comes across my desk blows me away. So I'm working more hours now than I ever have as a head coach. And with all the personnel we have in the scouting department and the business department and unlimited coaches, you would think my hours would be backed off. Well, it's going the other way, which is fine.
Yeah.
But the point being is, it's so intriguing, it just kind of keeps me going. And I think you adjust and you figure it out, or you get out of the game, one or the other.
That's right. I mean, because it's new again to you, really. I mean, with everything you've got to do, you're putting on the coaching cap, especially as a quarterback guy, to say, hey, look, I've got 4 guys. I've got to get one of them ready to play week 1.
That's right.
And that's got to be fun for you to kind of reinvigorate you again. I mean, you'd like a veteran starter.
And you know, the other thing, of course, Greg, you know this. So if you don't have any experience in the room, and then you do have a guy that you feel like is starting and can help you win, how accessible do you make him to the run game, even if he's a runner?
Yeah, right.
Because what if he's not available the next game?
Yeah.
That could be an issue.
A huge issue.
Well, and you used to be able to say, okay, I know I got one guy behind him, and then my third guy can go in and function, and then we'll play to his strength if we have to use him. Last year we had to use 4 guys.
How do you anticipate the offense looking this year, though? I know you said it's around the quarterback skill set, but you basically a couple years ago, after 3 weeks, you say, all right, no, we're not doing that anymore. We're going to run the rock. We're going to give it to Ollie 40 times a game.
Right.
That's what we're going to do. We're getting pistol. Come and get it. But obviously, that's so hard to replicate over and over again. You do adjust, but in a perfect world, what does the system look like for you?
So we'll base a lot out of 11 personnel. As you know, you see it in the NFL and college teams that have the ability to recruit that person that can attach and block, and then also be a good route runner when he's flexed out. That allows you to be a 4-wide team with the defense coordinator not knowing you have 4 wides in the game.
Yeah.
That would be the direction you'd want to go. I think that we've got a couple guys that can help us do that this fall that we didn't have last year. But we're still going to run it. We're going to run it 45 times a game. We got to run it, period. And then that's going to allow between 30 and 40 passes based on as fast as we play, depending on how they play us. You know, if they're going to close the middle of the field and play soft or you press us, we got to go out. We got to play outside. I mean, it's not a complicated game, but we're still going to run the ball 45 times a game. That's just what I believe in. I think it's going to be extremely difficult to survive if you cannot rush the football. Makes your life difficult back there.
No question.
Which, by the way, don't allude that
I want to run it 55 times a game.
A few play-action passes.
1 or 2, only on 1st and 10.
But between these two, if you need a running quarterback, go with this one. That's nice. Quickly on the schedule, where will you learn more about your team? Week 1, UT Martin. Week 2 at Oregon.
Well, both.
Yeah.
That question's been asked a number of times, and the answer's been different depending on the environment I was asked that question. We don't know a lot about our team right now, so we're going to learn a lot in the first game.
Yeah.
But then we're going to travel to Eugene and play a team that, you know, arguably has a chance to win a national championship the next week, and they're very, very talented. We'll learn a lot then also.
Yep.
But I will say this, that I've been pleased with the approach of the staff, the coordinator's leadership. So Todd and then Doug have done a good. See, I asked him to be the head coach on both sides of the ball when I went out looking, because I don't have as much time now to go in and watch tape and do X's and O's because of all the other things I'm involved in. So I need them to be a head coach, and you guys run the show. They've done that. They've done a good job of disciplining the coaches and the players in their meeting room.
Yeah.
And they're going to coach hard, and they're going to expect their players to play at a high level based on the way they coach them, and they're going to hold themselves accountable.
Yep.
I see more coaches on this staff holding themselves accountable than I've seen before. And I think that's a positive thing in today's game.
You know, it's going to be fun, and I love that you admitted this, that I love that you're re-energized by, because a lot of people could bitch and complain about where college football is right now. You're attacking it head on. I love that after 21 years, you're still finding the spark to keep this thing going. Cannot wait to watch what you do in Stillwater this year. Always a big fan of your style of football, and Eskimo Joe's if we can get out there and play a little bit of round. Mike Gundy, thank you so much. I don't know if they told you your schedule on SportsCenter with me later, so I'll talk to you again in the round. You're not going to get rid of me. So we got the round table, we got all kinds of stuff.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you. Appreciate you guys.
Mike Gundy, appreciate you. Look at that. This guy's fantastic. He was bothering Katie George earlier, and it made me laugh. Sparky's still hanging out, Texas Tech. That's the Cosmo. Cosmo's the 5-star mascot of this place. He's fantastic. We'll return. We are just past top of the hour here, day 2, Big 12 Football Media Days. Talking season off and running as we welcome you back to Media Days, powered by Microsoft Copilot, your everyday AI companion. We are not AI, at least they haven't created us yet with AI. Osweiler, McElroy, Barry. You know that's coming, by the way.
Oh, yeah, good luck.
It won't be us in about 10 years. Day 2 Media Days, we've already had a great rip of coaches. We've talked to Rich Rod's back, Lance Leipold, Sonny Dykes just had Mike Gundy up here. And I think what we were just talking about during the break, this is unique. We've all been to different media days, right? We've all done this in our career. The camaraderie in this league, to me, is unique to unlike anything you see in college.
Yeah, it's awesome, honestly. Like, it's so much. Well, we have great relationships with these coaches anyway.
Right.
We do in all leagues.
We had to kick Sonny Dykes off the set so we could talk to Mike Gundy, and then Mike, you gotta go. We're coming back from here.
It's unbelievable. It's funny though. I mean, just the amount of camaraderie amongst the coaches. Like in other leagues, you go and it's like no one really wants to talk to each other. Like I like him, but I don't really like him. This guy stole this from us last year. I don't like him for that. Like I feel like there's so many grudge matches at media days from time to time, and it's cordial, of course. But in this environment, I genuinely believe like everyone really gets along.
Yeah, there's a lot of respect. You can tell from the coaches, and a lot of these guys have coached together. Yeah, and they grew up together in the profession, and so just a lot of mutual respect and a ton of fun.
So just from behind the scenes, from back here, what we observe with the coaches, and again, the relationships we have is what makes Media Day so much fun. What makes this conference so much fun is we talked about it yesterday, the buzz term being used in Big 12 is competitive balance, because we know that there are 7, 8 teams that can win this. But again, to discuss this further, we know that the only way that you can get national respect if you're the Big 12, and it's sad that you got to say that, is that you've got to go win some of these big out-of-conference games early in the season.
You do, and there's really big games. You have Oklahoma State going to Oregon, and here's some of them. Cincinnati against Nebraska. Auburn comes to Baylor. That's a huge one. TCU going up to Chapel Hill, taking on Bill Belichick. That's the only game on TV that day when it comes to football. All eyeballs are going to be there, and it's huge to your point, Matt. If you're going to get 2 teams, if you're going to potentially get 3 teams into the college football playoff, you need to go beat the Big Ten. You need to beat the ACC, and that's what you see here. And the Big 12, and you can see it, and it comes from Commissioner Yormark. I really think it starts there. He wants to be aggressive. He wants to be forward-thinking, and he's challenging his coaches and athletic directors to schedule these games.
You know, we talked about it with Sonny Dykes, and we said, look, that North Carolina game, I mean, that's going to get some eyeballs. Yeah. Well, why is that? Because Bill Belichick's the winningest coach. Is one of the best coaches in NFL history now. Correct. Super Bowls. So now the Big 12 has a chance, Greg, on Labor Day night to go say, hey, this is how we do it in Texas. This isn't the NFL anymore. And that's big for the league.
It's massive, and it'll be an enormous audience. I mean, there's so much universal interest in that game. And I think with what TCU accomplished a couple years ago, people are already very familiar with their story, and they already know Bill Belichick. So that's a match made in heaven. I don't care what anyone says, though. The most important game week 1, I think, for this league is Auburn-Baylor.
Yeah, and don't forget, this is also huge when it comes to recruiting. Now with the portal, now with the salary cap, you used to recruit just your region. Now it's a national landscape. So if you're a Texas team and you can go to the East Coast or the West Coast and win a game, now you're drawing kids from that region too.
What do you love about Auburn-Baylor?
I think part of it, because I think Auburn's going to start the season at top 25. Yeah. I don't think Baylor will. It'll be close, but I'm not sure that they'll be in the top 25. I really think the SEC right now, and beating an SEC team in the non-conference is just enormous. And you can really kind of piggyback off that opportunity.
That's right.
Now, hey, Cincy gets Nebraska, that's great. That's also a really, really big game, big opportunity. But I still think the SEC, with the success the league has had and the amount of positive gratification that the fan base and the league might get, but also at the end of the day, at the end of the year, the SEC already has a ton of built-up goodwill in the court of public opinion when it comes to playoff spots. They have been given the benefit of the doubt for years, and rightfully so. They have great teams, they have great players, they have great resources, they have great coaches, and they've won a lot of championships. You knock off an SEC team week 1 for this conference, I think it's significant.
And kudos to some of these schools that are scheduling some of these out-of-league games, because that's big for the reputation of a league that's trying to get that national reputation of a school and a team that needs to be there to playoff teams. Now, The conference games are also good because of how much competitive balance there is. What are your top 5 Big 12 conference games this year?
I think there's some really exciting matchups. And for me, it starts week 0 in Dublin, Ireland. You look at Iowa State, Kansas State. That really kicks off the college football season. Going to be super exciting. TCU at Arizona State later in the year. If you like quarterback play, that one's going to be fantastic with Josh Hoover, Sam Leavitt. Then you got Kansas State, Baylor. That's going to be huge. That came down to the wire last year. 2 great quarterbacks there, Avery Johnson, Sawyer Robertson. And then you look at Texas Tech. We've all heard what they did in the offseason with their portal additions, how they've stacked their roster. They go to Tempe to take on the Sun Devils. It's going to be must-watch TV. Then you got Baylor, TCU, just an hour drive down the freeway. That came down to a game-winning field goal a year ago. And then you got a rematch of the Big 12 title game with the Sun Devils and Cyclones. So great conference matchups this season.
An hour drive from Waco to Fort Worth? How fast are you going?
Seriously.
It's like 90 miles.
Well, we went pretty fast to catch that flight after we called the game last year.
We've already
it's 90 minutes on the dot. You cannot cut it down. I know that drive like the back of my hand.
We were moving.
Alerted the authorities. But when you looked at those conference games, Greg, what you saw there is what we talked about all day yesterday. Every single one of those teams, every single one of those matchups, that could be a rematch in the Big 12 championship game. I mean, those are all schools that we could be talking about that first weekend in December.
And notable omission from that list, and I'm not discrediting it at all because I think it's in the eye of the beholder. In this league, there's so many great matchups on a week-to-week basis. Arizona State, of course, the defending champ, they're going to get marquee billing this year. I think universally everyone looks at what they have coming back. It's understandable that there's a lot of buzz around that program and the momentum that Kenny Dillingham has created. But a notable omission to me, the hardest place to play in this league is at Utah, in my opinion. I think Utah is a team that we might not be talking about a ton right now, but assuming Devin Dampier is who we think he is, and they can continue to play great defense, and they improve in the skill positions, and the offensive line is as good as we anticipate it being, that's a team that will absolutely play a role in this conference race. Will they win it? I don't know. But there will be a game involving Utah in Salt Lake that will have massive conference championship implications. And I don't know which one it is. Take your pick.
And look, how about BYU? Even with the Retzloff quarterback situation, them trying to find a new starter, they're the same thing as Utah. I mean, they're going to break in a new quarterback. We know that. But we also know that everything surrounding the quarterback is solid. Those are 2 other teams, to your point, that, I mean, that game between those 2 is filled with hate anyway. They could mean a lot again.
I completely agree. And think about home field advantage. You mentioned Utah, and I totally agree about Rice-Eccles Stadium. What about Lavelle Edwards Stadium down there in Provo? I mean, really tough places to play. And those are 2 teams. I completely agree with you, Greg. If you look at them, it's just the question mark is the quarterback position. If you get quality play at quarterback with Utah and BYU, they're going to be right there in the conference title race.
Let's step aside now from the conference games. And, Greg, I'll let you start this one. Your top 5 teams coming into the big, because we're not doing a preseason media poll. We kind of are, but in a different way. We're only going top 5. We're not going down to the 16. So who are your top 5 teams in the Big 12?
And I hold the right to change my mind. It's still July.
Well, I can just tell you you're wrong on this one.
They'll lock me in August, hopefully August 22nd, right before week 0 kicks off. I'm going Texas Tech. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I look at the roster. I just think they are stacked. And I look at the line of scrimmage in particular and how different that might be. And I look at all these teams, frankly, along the lines of scrimmage, they're all going to be rock solid. ASU, I'm going with number 2. Everyone's gunning for them this year, and I think their schedule's much more challenging. So the fact that they can even get to 2 is really, really impressive. Kansas State and Iowa State there at 3-4. You kind of know where I'm leaning in that week 0 game right now, but I certainly don't know exactly how that's going to play out. But I love the development we're likely going to get from Avery Johnson this year. And then finally 5 at Utah. I think they bounce back this year, man. I think that was a unique circumstance last year where they just, the last 2 years, frankly, injuries have been insane. Quarterback play has been at times brutal. I think Devin Dampier can alleviate some of those woes that they had at that position.
The Cam Rising situation, he's since medically retired from football. It was always the dangling carrot with Utah. If Cam Rising's healthy, we saw that one healthy year out of him and saw what they were capable of, but it just never manifested itself after that. I'm with you. I think Dampier's going to win as a lock for newcomer of the year. I think he's going to be that good at Utah. Who are your top 5 teams?
Yeah, I agree, and it's tough to put it together. This is a deep league, but I'm going to start with the Sun Devils, and the reason why, they returned 17 starters from a team that won a Big 12 title a season ago. You get Sam Leavitt back. You have All-American wide receiver Jordan Tyson. I think they're up to the challenge, and then we talk about the Texas Tech Tech Red Raiders. You look at them top to bottom, maybe next to Arizona State, the most complete roster in the Big 12, and I think they're up for the expectations this year. Kansas State, it really just comes down to, in my mind, Avery Johnson. How does he progress as a quarterback in the passing game? You know how dangerous he is with his legs. Dylan Edwards in the backfield. You know Chris Kleiman's going to field a great team. And then Baylor, I think with Sawyer Robertson, the way he finished the season last year, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the country.
Yeah.
And then the Iowa State Cyclones. Rocco Becht at quarterback. He's back, third year as the starter. You know they're going to have a team put together around him. I think it's going to be really exciting.
God, you see all these, I mean, I'm excited for that. By the way, that first Saturday, I'm going to let Zoob go hang out in the studio for that week 0 because I want to sit home and I just want to watch it. I just want to be a football fan for that one Saturdays where every year. So that's a look at some of the top 5 teams still ahead here for Media Days in Frisco. Look, year 2, we talked about the coaches that are going into year 2 at their program. What step can they take? We'll be joined by Brent Brennan, head coach of the Arizona Wildcats. He's got a quarterback coming back that's talented in its own right. We'll talk to Coach Brennan when we return here from Frisco. continue our live coverage. Big 12 Media Days. It is Arizona's turn with us. The Wildcats and Brent Brennan, year 2 as head coach in Tucson. He's got one of the most electrifying quarterbacks in the conference, maybe in the country. No, Fafida, he returns, as is Brent Brennan, who was kind enough to join us here on set. Year 2, Coach. Great seeing you, great talking to you. We saw you at dinner last night, so we knew we'd be having some fun with you today. How's your 24 hours been or so, or 12 hours been so far in Frisco?
It's been great.
Yeah.
This has been a great job, great facility. I think the ease of like moving through the hotel and getting everybody through and all the players and coaches and getting to meet all the media, it's been awesome.
I'm always entertained to talk to second-year head coaches because I find so much changes between year 1 and year 2.
Right.
So from that perspective, as we sit here today, how much has changed since you've taken the job in year 1 and year 2?
I mean, I think it's night and day. I mean, I really think as I'm looking at it, one of the challenges when we first got there is the portal created by Jed's departure. So you have like a 30-day portal there. Then you're getting ready for spring practice. Then you got another portal at the end of spring practice. And so like I felt like we spent the first 6 months on the job, like kissing everyone's ass, asking them to stay.
Yeah.
And it was like just a horrible foundation for what we're trying to get done there. The second year, we just feel much more stable in it. I think because of that, like a lot of the players chosen to stay, our retention's been high.
Good.
And then also kind of the acquisition of like new talent's been really positive. So we're in a great spot.
I love that you said that too, because sorry to interrupt, but when you get year 1, you're right. You're coming in, you're like, who's here? Who's there?
Right.
Year 2, it's like, all right, here's what I'm about. Here's what our program's about. Your quarterback stays was a big get for you, but now you can kind of sink your teeth into what you believe the job is in Tucson.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a special place, and I think it's got an opportunity to be incredible for college football. Because we have a fan base and like a city that's kind of baked into this, like we're it, right? Like the University of Arizona in the city of Tucson is it, and so we have this incredible fan base that we need to do the best job of engaging and then putting a product on the field they're excited to come watch.
Yeah,
and that's a challenge ahead.
And I think, too, one thing back to your original point, at that time when Jed left and you take over, there's only 3 schools you can recruit from. You got Alabama because of Kalen, you got Washington because of Kalen, and then you got Michigan because of Harbaugh. I mean, so you're in like an impossible spot.
Right.
So I completely understand the challenges. I don't think people are recognizing that enough. And you look, too, though, at the personnel that was lost. Ted McMillan was unbelievable. I mean, just what an incredible player. How do you try to replace his productivity on the outside?
Well, I think it's going to be, one of the things that I felt like we were missing a year ago is I felt like we were missing some people on the other side of T-Mac. Like we needed to have more, we needed more speed. And I think we've added that in the offseason. We've added 5 guys that run 10-6, 10-5, 10-4, and so like we just needed more heat. And that was one of the reasons like T-Mac was incredibly productive. What a great player, what a great human being, and we're so excited for what he's going to do in the NFL. But I'm excited to see what this receiver group does as a collective in the Seth Doege offense, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that soon enough, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, you just teed up my question. That's exactly where I was going.
Segue.
There we go. I'm curious. You made some coordinator changes, but specifically on the offensive side, why Seth Doege?
I think Seth Doege, from the moment I met him when he came and spent some time with us, I was just really impressed with the energy he brought and just kind of the conversation had incredible juice, which I'm looking for high energy guys. Like that's a big part of who I am, and I need to work with guys that can feed off each other that way. But then also when we started talking about the football, when we started talking about what we were trying to build at Arizona, I also thought it was interesting to hear an air raid guy talk about, hey, last year at Marshall, we found some real success running the ball, and I had never heard an air raid guy talk that way, right? Like, because I was just, in my mind, I was like, okay, how do you win games late in the season? You got to be able to run the football, right? And so talking to Doege and talking about the championship run they went on last year at Marshall, like his ability or his willingness to adapt the scheme to fit the personnel is what really solidified it for me.
And you go back to Arizona's history on offense that you guys would trot out running backs for years. I don't know, there's Trung Candidate's one of them that comes to mind, one of those games. Like these guys that come out, and it's like you can do all you want, but if you can't run the ball in this, we've been talking to coaches all morning that love throwing the ball, but as you know, like that's all well and good, but you got to run the ball just as well.
That's right.
So when you look at now where you guys are headed, you've got stability, you've got your quarterback. What do you believe is next?
I think the next step for us is to, as I look at the kind of changing landscape of college football, it's going to be how do we build a more connected, a more committed team?
Yeah.
Like how are we tougher than the people we play? I really think that's going to be the kind of the separating factor in college football going forward, because everybody has some variation of NIL or rev share. Like everybody has somewhere in that kind of window, right? So whatever that is, like, okay, how do we build the best team we can at the University of Arizona? And I think we've had really good momentum in recruiting this offseason. It started with the portal, coming out of the season, and then kind of moving into spring practice, and now kind of summer workouts and finishing up the spring recruiting period. So I love where we're at, and I think that this team is poised to do something really cool. And I think when you be around our team, be around the players, spend some time talking to them, their belief in each other, their belief in our process is what really stands out.
And I know this is blasphemous sitting up here on the set, and I don't want to make the comparison, but could you model, like Arizona State last year was picked to do nothing.
Yep.
They go on a run and win the conference.
Yep.
Can you have that kind of team in year 2 where people aren't looking much at it, but you know what's going on in those doors?
I think if you're not playing in this conference looking to play for the conference championship, like you're full of it and you're cheating your team. I mean, that should be the goal every year. You know what I mean? And I think what the school up north did last year was you got to respect it. I think it's really plain and simple. Like, our fans don't like hearing me say that, but I can respect it because what they did was hard to do, right? That's what we're trying to do. And so, as we look at what they did or what other teams did, that's one of the things I love about the Big 12 is I do think anyone has a chance to win it.
Yeah, and you have the key component that can get you there in your quarterback,
right.
Noah Fafida. And I'm curious about that. 2 seasons ago, just lit it up. Stepped in there, started, and led double-digit wins. Last season, seems like he kind of took a step back. What have you seen out of him this spring and this offseason?
Well, just seeing him attack his process of development, I think Coach Daigie's been critical for him. And I think in defense of Noah Fafida, I think as I look back to last year, we didn't run the ball well enough to protect him like they did the year before, and we didn't just protect him well enough. And I think those things are simple. And I think what we talked about earlier, not having enough people opposite Team Act to kind of offset that coverage and people pushing so much to him impacted that. But I believe in Noah Fafida, and I know our fan base does too. And you're going to see exciting things from him with Coach Daigie.
Yeah, I look forward to watching him. I know he's a fun guy to watch. When he's on, he's going for sure. Schedule. I'm sure year 1 in the league, you're drinking through a fire hose, learning the opposition, retaining your players, trying to figure out who does what. And this is a league where you just see so much variety. I mean, it's unbelievable. Some teams are 21, some teams are 12, a lot of teams are 11, some teams are 1. They're all over the place. So now looking at the schedule, do you feel now that you're better prepared to kind of navigate knowing the opponent a little better than you did last year?
I think that gives us a chance to, and I think that's all part of it, right? Like stepping into a new conference, it's not just new scheme and new coaching staff that you're going head-to-head with, it's also new venues, right? And that's part of it. That's something that's so interesting is you're traveling to these places, and I think it's exciting for our players to get to see some new places this season. We're going on the road. We've got a couple tough ones, late in the year, but I do think it gives us a better chance because at least we have some familiarity with it.
And 5 of the first 6 at home.
Yes.
I mean, that's a great jumping off point for you,
Amen. Yes.
The schedule makers liked you. When you look now, top to bottom, we've asked all the coaches this because we could sit up here and make a case for anybody winning this league. How would you assess the Big 12 top to bottom?
I think this is the deepest conference in college football. I really believe that. And I think, in some of the other conferences, I think you have some people that are kind of always at the top of the food chain. You know what I mean? Where this one, what we talked about a minute ago, like the team up north, they just proved that you can go start at the bottom and find a way to finish at the top. And I think that's what makes it an exciting brand of football.
By the way, are you proud? Like, we just sat here. You just had a conversation with 2 Sun Devils, and it was so cordial. Greg, are you proud of us?
No, actually, because you asked a question about the Sun Devils in the actual interview process.
We were talking about
remarkably
the conference championships.
Unprofessional, which is fine. I got your back, Coach. I'll keep them in line.
Coach, we're looking forward to it. Good luck in year 2. It's an exciting brand of football. We hope things go well for you down at Tucson. Oswald, are you good?
I'm good.
All right,
the team down south.
Brent Brennan, head coach, U of A. Coach, thank you so much for spending time. Continued success with you. Good luck this way. The team down south, as Brock put it, we're looking forward to them getting back on the up. It's good for football. It's good for the conference. Year 2, Brent Brennan. Year 2, Willie Fritz, the head coach of Houston. He's going to join us coming up as our live coverage continues from Big 12 Media Days. Marching right along as we welcome you back to Big 12 Media Day is powered by Microsoft Copilot, your everyday AI companion. Here at the Star in Frisco, Texas, that is home of the Dallas Cowboys. Not too far from the DFW Metroplex down in Houston. The Houston Cougars returning year 2 of Willie Fritz. Let me tell you something. Towards the end of the season, you could see that thing starting to take shape. One of the best program builders in the country did so at Tulane. Had a privilege to call a few of his games while he was there. Now at Houston in year 2, now joining us now. Coach, always good talking with you.
Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
It is fun. We talk about these program builders, and you're one that we ID all the time. Someone that comes in, puts in his system, and builds the thing steadily. Year 2 now, where do you think you are with that at Houston?
Well, I think we're light years ahead of where we were last season. It's great that we've got some depth. We've got some competition for positions. We didn't really have that last year, and there were some glaring weaknesses we had, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, particularly offensive line.
Yeah.
And we got 5 guys that have started Division I games that we brought in with the guys that have already played quite a bit. And I think we found a really nice quarterback to add to our quarterback room. And we've got a couple other guys that are good players, and tight ends. We added a couple good ones. So just really wanted to revamp the offense. We played good defense last year, but in the second half of the season, pretty good in the kicking game. But we weren't consistent offensively. Didn't have a very good year. We got to improve in that area.
Referencing Connor Wegman, transferred in from Texas A&M, and what have you noticed about Houston now, your first go-around, of the ability and the accessibility for you to recruit players to come into Houston?
Well, I've got a lot of background in Houston.
Yeah.
My 2 daughters were already living there. I was the head coach at Sam Houston State. I was the head coach at Blaine Junior College. So I've recruited the area of Houston forever, it seems like. I just think, at some point in time, most kids want to be pretty close to home, and that helped us tremendously at Tulane. We had a lot of kids from New Orleans who thought the grass was greener someplace else. They found out it was only green and came back to New Orleans, and were really good players. And so we want to get them on the front end, but there's also a possibility to get them on the back end too.
Yeah. You have a remarkable ability to wave the magic wand after that first year, kind of lay the foundation, and then boom, 12 wins. I'm not going to say that that's the expectation. Let's not get carried away. You know what I mean? That
sounds so good.
We've seen that before.
Yes,
it's happened before. Your second year at Tulane, some remarkable jumps. What is the biggest difference from year 1 to year 2 as far as understanding and execution?
Well, the lay of the land. We're inside your athletic department, recruiting, your base that you're going to have. You're inheriting a lot of guys, not as many as back when you guys were playing.
Sure.
You had a coaching change. You guys were stuck with the coach. You got to stay there, right?
Right.
And one of the things that hurt me, I think, with taking this job is we played an extra week. I was a week and a half late getting to the party, and almost December 10th, I think it was, and Houston was out of school. And I didn't get a chance to meet all those guys and develop a relationship. So, our slogan this year is Houston, and specifically Houston 2025. We're just worried about this year. We're not worried about the next year and the year after. And I think in this day and age with the portal and rev share and everything else, you probably need to build it a year at a time, not looking down the road too far.
Yeah, and Coach, speaking of change, there's a change in your defensive coordinator. You had a coordinator leave, and you brought in Austin Armstrong. I'm curious, why was he the right choice to lead your defense this season?
Well, I knew him a little bit. We played against him the year you were referencing. We got beat by Southern Miss, and we should have beat them. It was one game I was very disappointed in that season, and a lot of that was because of their defense. And the guy that he worked for there is a close friend of mine. When I hire a coach, I really try to do a good job of not only gathering information on guys we're recruiting, but also the coaches that I'm recruiting, because I don't want to bring in a problem. I have no desire to be around a turd 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I've made that mistake once or twice in my career. So that was important, but he also was running a lot of the same things that we were running. We had a good defense last year.
Yes, you did.
We ran some odd and even, and I like the way he causes havoc, with his defense, and he's done a great job this spring. We're excited to have him.
I mentioned that stretch of the season last year. TCU win, Utah win, Kansas State win. Those are 3 wins in a 4-game stretch where you really started to see a little bit of the maturation of you in year 1. What did you start to learn about your team then that you could carry over perhaps into the offseason, into preseason camp, and then moving on to this year?
Well, we know about the guys that are coming back.
Yeah.
We know what they can do well. We know what they don't do so well. And the thing I'm excited about is with the addition of our freshman class and the addition of the guys from the portal, we got over 40-some guys that have started Division I football games in our program. Either they've been there at the University of Houston or they came in from someplace else. So we're going to have to use the first 2-3 games to figure out our rotation, what the strengths and the weaknesses are. You can practice all you want, but until you play a real ball game, that really tells you what guys are capable of, and that's a big part of my job as a head coach of figuring that out.
Kind of looking at a bunch of different teams, frankly. If their quarterback's healthy, they're a problem. If the quarterback's not, they become very human. And Connor Wigman at times has been remarkably efficient as a starting quarterback in the SEC. Now he's at your place. You guys got him early in the process. You identified him as your guy early when the transfer portal opened. What is it about his skill set that you feel like fits in what you guys want to be offensively?
I've also got a new offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Slade Mangle just came over from LSU, but he was with me at Tulane, so there's a lot of familiarity there. Connor, I just think fits perfectly with what Slade likes to do. It's what we did at Tulane. We want to be a 50-50 team. I don't know if a team's ever won a big-time championship and couldn't run the football. So we do want to have a run identity. But I think what Slade is bringing that maybe we didn't do quite as much of it at Tulane is a drop-back pass game that they were very successful with it at LSU, one of the better drop-back pass teams in the country. And you mentioned this about Connor. He was banged up quite a bit.
Yeah.
He really didn't get healthy with us till about February, March. He was ready to go when spring ball started. And I think he's very excited about, this new opportunity for him. This is, getting a fresh start, and he's been a super leader for us. I've just been excited about how he's ingrained himself with the whole squad, not just with the offense or the skill guys.
Speaking of Connor, and it's been coined a bit, maybe this is the conference of quarterbacks this year. You look at it top to bottom, all 16 teams, so many talented guys out there. And I'm curious from your perspective, and the word competitive balance has been out there. What is it about this conference that makes so much parity and week in and week out so difficult to get wins?
I've mentioned that a couple times talking to different people today. I really feel like this is the most balanced conference. This is my 6th conference that I've been in. There's been a few leagues where, you could bring your B game or C game and still win.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen here. And we had a couple of those games last year where people probably didn't think we had an opportunity to win the game. I think it's very well coached. And I think there's good size. That's a big difference I see probably between my last conference and this conference. It's very good size on both the offense and defensive line. And then, as you mentioned, I think everybody's got a pretty good quarterback.
Yeah.
And I think we're included in that as well. So just a very good conference from top to bottom. You better bring your A game every week if you want to have a chance.
Yeah, no doubt.
A couple of out-of-conference games to start the season for you. What do you want to learn early on from this version of your team in those?
Well, we got some depth now. We want to, a real game is just so different than spring football, scrimmaging, or any of those kind of things. And I want to figure out our rotation. How many plays is this guy capable of playing in a row? Do we want to go 2 series to 1? Do we want to go 6 plays to 3 plays? Is this guy capable of playing all the time? Is this guy an inside run guy, or can he get out on the perimeter and run the football? And that's, sometimes coordinators, head coaches, you can't see the forest for the trees. You keep running this guy on a play that he's not good at. And that's one of the things I really try to help our guys with is, why are you blitzing this guy? We want to blitz this guy, or this guy's not good on the outside stretch play, man. Let's make sure we're more inside zone with him. Or the quarterback, this is not good for Connor to do. He's not great at this play. So that's what we'll figure out the first couple of weeks.
It's crazy to think that you go into that level of detail with each and every player. I love it. I absolutely love it. But people always say, well, look, Willie's going to win. Simple as that. You've always won. You're always going to win. You're going to find a way. And I think there's no doubt that that'll happen to Houston as well. Why is it that you win everywhere you go?
Well, it's difficult to do that. Number one, if you don't have really good coaches and really good players. You know, if I got really good players and really good coaches, I'm going to win a bunch of ball games. I'm not going to screw it up. I'll tell you that. But I just think we've got a philosophy in our program that I developed years and years ago. I call it the plan to win. And I listened to Don James speak at a clinic. You ever heard of Don James?
Oh, yeah. Former Washington coach,
And he talked about you better have a philosophy if you want to be a head coach. And I thought about it when I got my first opportunity. I've had the same philosophy ever since, and I've just been consistent, you know, day after day. Our guys aren't surprised with how I'm going to act, you know, Tuesdays compared to a Friday. I like that when people deal with me that way as well. So just the consistency and doing a good job recruiting. And, you know, one of the things I want to be a high school program. I mean, I'd be stupid not to be a high school program in Houston, Texas, right? So we want to be a high school program, and we're going to work hard at recruiting the kids and getting them to stay in the state of Texas and specifically in the city of Houston.
Coach, you mentioned a couple times throughout this conversation how excited you are to have depth on your roster this year. I'm curious, as you go into that week 1 game, what position group are you most excited to see go out there and kick it off week 1?
Our offensive line. Okay. You know, I think we've gone from here to here. I don't know if we're going to be the top in the Big 12, but we're certainly going to be competitive with all the other offensive lines. And we weren't last season. It was difficult. You guys know more than anybody that quarterback gets too much credit when things go well and too much blame when things go wrong. And it's tough if you don't have an offensive line that's workable. And it was tough for us last season. So that's probably the position group I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do.
You know, what he said with us throughout this conversation, he's right. I mean, Houston, Texas, and the talent that's down there.
It's the epicenter of football in the world. Not in the state of Texas.
In the world.
In the world.
Right.
Think about it.
It's pretty good.
All right, and there's and we want the best players in Houston to stay in Houston. And that's what helped us at Tulane win.
Yeah.
We got the kids from New Orleans.
Yeah, you know.
Stick around.
Right. You know, and look, when that thing wakes up, and the best epicenter of football in the world, you should print that and make that a shirt. Houston. Willie Fritz, always great catching up. We learned so much just talking with you. Don James, great drop, by the way. Yes. Steve Ettman, Napoleon Kaufman. Remember those teams, man?
Great teams.
That's some good football. He's a damn good football coach. And Willie Fritz, appreciate your time with us. I know you're a busy day. Cougars here, too, with him. Oklahoma State, we talked to Mike Gundy earlier today. We will be joined by his players, including Oklahoma State tight end Josh Ford. That and more when we return to Frisco. You know, we've been talking to the coaches all morning here in the early part of the afternoon in Frisco, Texas. It's about time we get some of the players here with us on set and with Katie George, and that's where we begin. Josh Ford, tight end, Oklahoma State. Go Pokes with us. Josh, good seeing you.
Sir.
Like, I mean, what a legendary situation you got going up top.
Come on. That's strong. That's strong. Got a little mullet going on in the back.
That is what I want my Oklahoma State football players to look like. How has this experience been for you so far today?
It's been one of a kind. I mean, I just taking it all in, loving every second.
So we were talking a second ago, you spent most of your life in Stillwater, and now you play for Oklahoma State in Stillwater. What does that mean to you to be able to start the process as a sophomore to start getting Oklahoma State back among the Big 12 elite?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. I mean, it's such a blessing. Been praying for a moment like this, you know, just being able to represent my team and try and lead them. Lean on the Lord, you know. We didn't really quite understand last season, you know, but he puts us through those trials for a reason, and definitely a learning experience.
Yeah, I imagine it was. You are like the only guy that's back, it feels like. I mean, it's wild because I look at the roster, it's like new. Okay, well, Josh is there. We were good, right? Know what he's got. So what's it been like kind of getting to know, developing a rapport with some of your new teammates?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a process. We have so many new guys, and just getting to know their name, first of all. I mean, like, some of the guys I'm still learning. And so, yeah, that's been a process for sure. A bunch of team building stuff, you know, hanging out outside of football, just eating meals together, you know, just trying to get to know each other because, I mean, we're about to go through war together. So, I mean, just yeah, it's a process for sure.
Josh, I'm curious. You're a tight end, a lot of new faces. You like catching touchdown passes. What have you seen out of the quarterback room, you know, spring ball and as you guys do your summer workouts?
Yeah, it's there. The spring ball was definitely a great place for us to start connecting with the quarterbacks and trying to find a connection there, and some good stuff came out of that.
Is that wild, though? Like, Greg brings it up. You're one of the only returning guys. How wild is that to have a complete roster turnover going into the season that can be that different?
Right. Well, last year, you know, when I was able to start, I was like, man, I'm a puppy among some dogs up here. And, you know, this year, kind of being one of the dogs amongst a bunch of puppies now, it's kind of weird. But definitely very excited about it.
What do you do for fun? What did you do for fun in Stillwater growing up?
I'm a big fisher. I'm a big outdoorsman.
Yeah.
You know, from fishing to hunting, messing around outdoors. I mean, that's where I thrive.
What are we catching? Largemouth?
Oh, yeah.
What are we hunting?
So we got some largemouth up there. We got some stripers, some hybrids. It's a little bit of catfish.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Did you take any of your teammates hunting with you?
Oh, yeah. Of course.
So good.
It gets cold up there, though. You better bundle up when you get in the tree stand. You going on Sunday after a game?
Yeah, I mean, I'll try and sneak in a couple hunts during the season. Yeah, for sure.
Good luck this year.
We're
all pulling for you. We love Oklahoma State football when that thing's going, so we hope you have a big part of that. Josh, thank you for joining us up on set. Some of his teammates, we got the offensive side of it. Katie's much tougher than we are on set, which is why she gets the defensive players. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Matt. I'm with the defensive gurus over here. I'm an Oates, D-tackle, as well as cornerback Cam Smith. Teammates are obviously pretty honest with one another. What do you think of Josh's hair?
I think it's pretty good.
You do?
I like it on him. It flows nice, and it fits his personality for sure.
I definitely. Yeah, I'm definitely rocking with it. I love it, man. Yeah.
Look like they're taking a selfie with the guys up on set right now. So I know last season didn't go the way that you guys expected, and it wasn't to the standard that we're used to seeing at OSU. How would you say you guys feel going into this season? Hungry, motivated?
Definitely those. I would say like it's a feeling of new opportunity. We got a lot of new guys in. You know, the chip on the shoulder is there for sure. So we all hungry. We wanted to get back on track to what we normally do and just get back to where we was.
Yeah, definitely. That wasn't the standard of Oklahoma State. You know, we definitely all, like you said, got that chip on our shoulder. We're hungry. We're motivated. I feel like we attacked this offseason and the spring, you know, with that chip on our shoulder. So I'm very excited for this upcoming season.
You mentioned some of the new guys. You have a lot of them, but you also had a lot of staff changes as well. Todd Grantham comes in to take over the defense. Cam, just before we came on, you said he was the defensive coordinator we needed. Why is that?
You know, I think he just brings a different type of swagger, confidence, and like energy. He's real fiery, and like, you know, when he coming out there, you know, you better be on your A game, or you know, he gonna give it to you. So I feel like as a defense, you know, you kind of need a DC like that.
What do you think of him, personality-wise and schematically?
Personality-wise, I think he's a great guy. Like he said, he's stern. You know, he has his expectations like any other coach would have. But I feel like his scheme, you know, he's setting his players up to be successful and put us in the right position to make plays. So I think it's a real exciting opportunity to be able to play for him in his scheme.
Is the scheme similar or different from what you were in a year ago?
I would say it's different. It's super multiple. Like we run so many different looks, whether it's nickel, dime, all over the place. So like it's a spot for anybody on the team. So that's what he always tells us. Everybody has a spot and a role in the team. So just be ready when that time comes.
Yeah, just like you said, it's a multiple defense. You know, we run a lot of different fronts and things like that. You know, back end's a lot of disguises and things like that. So it's definitely different from the past couple of years.
Cam, you have 29 starts. That's the most of any returning OSU player. What kind of responsibility do you feel as a leader of this defense?
You know, just kind of showing the new guys and the young guys, you know, how it's done at Oklahoma State, you know, showing them, you know, the Cowboy way, you know, discipline and toughness, and I feel like I do a good job of doing that, you know, by how I attack the workouts and things like that.
What's this guy's greatest strength up front?
He brings the energy. He's the meat and the muscle, you know, of the defense. You know, it starts up front. It starts with Iman.
Yeah, it does. What do you think his greatest strength is as a cornerback?
I love his patience as a quarterback. You know, he's real commanding out there, you know, and he relies a lot on his technique, and he does a pretty good job at it. So I think the leadership that he brings to it, it helps us a lot as a defense.
Well, I know that we're looking for a bounce back from Oklahoma State this season. So best of luck to both of you. We appreciate you stopping by and taking the time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
We've got plenty more coming up from Frisco, Texas here as Big 12 Media Days rolls on.
Our fun continues here at the Star, and it is time to talk some Utah football. Kyle Whittingham coming off a 5-7 season, beset by injuries a year ago. 21 years as the head coach of Utah. An exciting quarterback transfers in. They were one of the picks in the conference a year ago. Don't look now, but if Utah stays healthy, Dampier comes in, you're going to see them in a very familiar spot, which is in the conversation for a conference championship. With that, Coach Whittingham, great talking to you as always.
Thank you for having me.
21 years.
Yeah, that's a bit, isn't it?
That's a long time. I worked with Mullen for 3 years, now the head coach at UNLV, and I know you guys have. And we just talk about how coaches like yourself, you find a spot that just fits who and what you are, and you've done it at such a high level for so long. What has it meant to you to have an opportunity to lead this place for that long?
Well, first of all, I feel fortunate and blessed to be in the same spot. I mean, most coaches in 21 years will be at 4 or 5 different places, and so I've been very grateful to be able to spend as much time as I have in Utah. I'm not a guy that's always looking for that next job, and grass is greener on the other side. But to be able to have my kids grow up in the same school district and not have to move around the country has been huge for me. The formula is simple: recruit the right way. You recruit the right way and get the right players in there, you get a chance. And our assistant coaches through the years have done a fantastic job of targeting the right guys with their evaluations, getting the right kind of guys into our program, guys that fit our culture, and they're great at developing talent as well. And so that's something that has been our formula for success. Now that's a little tougher to do now with the transfer portal and with NIL. It's you're gonna have to change with the times, but we still feel like we've got a fantastic culture at Utah, and players really seem to get along well.
You know what I find entertaining, and I did this with Brent Brennan, and I don't mean to do it with you on the other side of the rivalry. We had Kalani Sitake up here yesterday, and I said to him, and I said the same thing to him about you, there aren't 2 programs in the country that I believe that know who they are and their identity of players that they want to bring in than BYU and Utah. Why is that, and what is that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think at Utah, I know that on our coaching staff, I believe we have 5 players that played at Utah that understand the ins and outs of the university and what kind of players will thrive in our system. We've had great continuity with the coaching staff in general through the years. We had some turnover this year, but typically we have very little turnover there. And so I just think we've been able to, keep consistency schematically, keep consistency in the type of players that we bring in there, and just kind of self-perpetuates.
It's amazing to watch it, because if you were to just take the stickers off the helmet and put you in nondescript white jerseys, I would know it's Utah by how they play. You know what I mean? No, there's just a certain edge that you guys play with. It's a violence that you play with, especially on defense and along the lines of scrimmage. How do you find those guys in an era where it's becoming a little bit more perimeter, a little bit more on the outside, and yet you continue year after year to find those guys on the interior that can wreck games?
Yeah, well, we've done a great job, like I said, with evaluations. The Polynesian athlete has been a big part of our success. We have a big contingency of Polynesian athletes. We used to go to Hawaii and beyond to get them. Now we have a pretty good population in the state of Utah, and so that helps us, in that respect. But we just, we do a deep dive on these recruits that we go after and make sure that they're our kind of guys, and we got to have, the head coach and the people that know them well and best give us how do you deal with that? But anyway, we've been able to, and we've got a tradition really. If you're a lineman, Utah's a great place to come, because we've done a good job of getting those people onto the next level.
Coach, pivoting back to the coaching staff, you just mentioned you've always had so much continuity within your staff, but you did make a change at the offensive coordinator position. You went out and you got Jason Beck. Why was he the right fit to lead your offense this season?
Well, we did an extensive search. Morgan Scally and I are our head coach in waiting and defensive coordinator, and it was a national search, and we independently watched tape, narrowed the field down, and we both came back to the same conclusion that what Jason did in New Mexico with the personnel available to him, he was 4th in the nation in total offense, and just the innovation, the creativity, the way he utilized personnel was second to none, and so we felt like that was the direction to go.
And you bring in, I brought up Devin Dampier. You bring him in from the portal. How does that marriage work with coach and quarterback with what you hope to get out of him?
It's been awesome. He's been like another coach on the field in spring ball, because there was no learning curve for Devin. He knew the offense inside and out. Jason brought the same offense exactly to Utah. Now there's going to be some tweaks based on personnel that he has at his disposal, but Devin was one of the guys that really helped us get that offense implemented throughout spring ball.
We brought it up yesterday because we get excited by players that you get out of the portal that we believe come with a chip on their shoulder because they were overlooked.
Right.
Have you noticed that at a Devin, that perhaps the big schools didn't look at him early and now this is his chance?
Yeah, I think the size was probably a concern for the bigger schools, and he's proven that that's not a factor. I mean, how many guys rush for 1,000 yards and throw for over 2,500 yards? In fact, I've been told there's only 4 people in NC2A history that have done that.
Yeah.
And supposedly they all won the Heisman Trophy, I guess. So anyway, Devin is a guy that wanted a bigger challenge. And, when you go to the portal, there's 2 reasons. You either feel like you're getting not a fair shake at the school you're at, or you want a bigger stage. Devin was the latter.
Well, he's dynamic and so fun to watch, but I am curious what's around him. A lot of new faces within the skill group, but some guys I know you feel good about. I know that a handful of transfer guys that have played at the FBS level. So when you were evaluating some of the prospects there at those spots, at running back, at wide receiver, what have you, what did you kind of take into account with what you were looking for?
Well, we needed a running back number 1. We lost the entire running back room, either to graduation or transfer. So the entire, I think we have 6 scholarships allocated at running back are brand new. There's nobody that's played a snap for the University of Utah, but we're thrilled with what we came away with. Wayshawn Parker from Washington State rushed for 700 or 800 yards last year as a true freshman. Terrific back. We hit the portal hard for wide receiver as well. Now the one, I don't want to say it's a negative, but the one thing coming out of spring ball, we do not have an established wide receiver pecking order. Who's wide receiver 1, 2, 3, who are the go-to guys. That competition will continue in fall camp, and that's got to sort itself out. We got to decide, who are the guys we got to get the ball to. But the real starting point for our offense, in addition to Devin, is our offensive line. I've been at Utah 21 years, and I feel this is the best offensive line we've ever had at the University of Utah. We got 2 projected first-round picks at the tackle spot, 3 seniors inside that have played a ton of good football for us, that all 3 very well could be drafted in addition. So if the offensive line plays as we think it's going to, we got a chance to be pretty potent on offense.
Thank you for leading me into my next question, because I wanted to ask you about one of those offensive tackles, Spencer Fano, and we're getting ready to talk with him. I think one of the best things about this job is getting to know who the player is. When the pads are off, when the helmet's off. Tell us a little bit about Spencer Fano.
Spencer Fano, great personality, gregarious kid. I mean, he is funny. I don't know if he'll let it show here, but he's a riot. Him and his brother Logan, who plays defensive end for us, have a podcast, and it's very entertaining. If you want to listen to it and be entertained, those guys get after each other pretty good. Just ask him who's the best basketball player of all time or something. He'll get into a raging debate with you just like that.
I love it.
But he's a smart kid, tremendous athlete, and really a team guy. I mean, he's got no ego. He's got no agenda. He just wants the team to win.
It's been fun watching you all these years. You do it the right way. It's been fun to watch. He's right. When Utah is playing football, and it sounds like you got another stable of them coming back.
We hope so. We'll see.
It's going to be fun. Kyle Whittingham, head coach of Utah. And so, Katie, there you have it for Spencer. He's got a podcast. He's a basketball fan. I mean, he's
learned so much already.
All set up.
I know. Thanks, Matt. Spencer, coach says you're a riot. Is that true?
I try my hardest, just...
You're a funny guy?
I'm just me. I'm just me.
What's the podcast about?
It's me and my brother. We just go on there and talk about really whatever. We talk about anything, me and my brother. Yeah.
So you're already set up for success doing this with me today.
Exactly. We're here,
you've got all
We're
kinds
here.
of reps.
Exactly.
I know last season didn't necessarily go the way that you guys wanted. It wasn't to the standard we're used to seeing at Utah. How would you describe the way things went and the feeling in the locker room going into this season?
This season, there's definitely a lot of confidence. Because even though last year didn't really go out like how we wanted it to, every game was just so close. And we knew that to win games, we really just needed our offense to perform. And we feel like it's the same this year. Like, our defense is always stellar. Like, our defense is always great. But we just need our offense to perform this year, and we're really confident that we'll do that.
Coach Whittingham just told the guys up there that he feels like this is the best offensive line Utah has had in his tenure. Okay. So some pressure, right? He's setting the standard. Do you agree with him based on the guys up front?
I I'll just say I take our group over anybody. I'll take my guys, me and the 4 dudes that are along with me over anybody in the country. So
I know you're obviously a large part of the success up there at right tackle. You could be one of the first offensive linemen to be taken in the next year's draft should you decide to go. What makes you such a great tackle?
I feel like I know my weaknesses, and I know my weaknesses, and I work on those every day. I try to improve every day, and I don't think I'll ever be a finished product.
Okay.
And I feel like that's something that, I don't know, works in my favor, is that I work hard every day.
Was there one area of your game you really focused on this offseason and improving upon?
I'd say this offseason I really just worked on getting bigger and stronger.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much bigger are you?
I put on, I don't know if you could tell, I put on like 10, 5 to 10 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now
Some solid.
Yeah, there's a lot of newcomers, obviously, joining the team, one being Devin Dampier at quarterback. What was it like getting to know him, getting to work with him on the offensive side throughout the offseason?
It's been great. It's been really easy to just hang out with Devin because he's a very humble guy. He's a very humble, not like a rah-rah kind of guy. You know what I'm saying? It's been really easy to be able to get to know him. And then you see him on the field, and it's complete opposite. He's just a baller. So it's been great to get to know him.
Awesome. Well, we're really excited to watch you guys play this season.
Thank
Spencer,
you.
best of luck in the season, and thanks for stopping by.
Thank you so much. Hi, Mom. Love you.
Matt, let's hear from Devin, the humble guy.
Yeah, I feel like Hi Mom went away in TV for a while. It was such a trendy thing to do, especially the offensive lineman protecting this next player, Devin Dampier, Utah quarterback. Now, here's why I'm bullish on Devin Dampier. Like myself, he's a fellow Scottsdale Saguaro legend. We both went to the same high school, so it's good to see another SaberCat up here. I love seeing you. Congratulations on the move to Utah. How has that transition been for you?
It's been great. The teammates, coaches, they've all made it real easy. They're big on culture, and it just takes me to adapt to it, and they made that really easy, and the fans are great.
I asked Coach Whittingham this about you. I'm going to ask you about this. Do you come to this opportunity with a chip on your shoulder with something to prove, perhaps from being overlooked coming out of Saguaro?
Yes, for sure. There's never a game I don't go out there and, I feel like I got to prove something just every time. I brought up the Kobe quote. Kobe said every time he goes out there, someone new is watching him play. So, that's kind of how I think about every game. I just want to leave an impact every time I'm on that field.
Well, I remember watching you last year. It was week 0. We're watching New Mexico. I think you guys were playing Montana or someone like that. And you were running around, and you made some of the most ridiculous ones. Like, who the heck is this guy? All of a sudden, I'm like, when's New Mexico playing? Like, I'm watching those guys. And, man, you had a great year. It was fun to watch. What have you been focusing on this offseason to kind of build on what you already established last season?
Yeah, I think just getting closer with the receivers. I think that eliminates certain turnovers that I've had last year previously. So just being able to be more on the same page with them, knowing when to, just throw it lower and know when to let them go ahead and make a play, just being better situational wise. But the film and that study that never stops. So
Devin, speaking of film, I'm curious when you get to know players and you visit with them for the first time, who do you study? Who do you watch? Is there somebody that you want to model your game after? Is there a particular guy playing quarterback at the next level that you try to study?
Yeah. So I started off just growing up, it was Aaron Rodgers for sure. I think he throws the ball the best I've ever seen a quarterback throw the ball. So that's who I grew up. But right now, Baker Mayfield's my guy. I'm a big fan of him in college, and now in the NFL, he's doing tremendous. So that's definitely my inspiration.
What is it about him that you like?
The energy for sure. I think energy and the way you can just bring up other guys. I think he's one of the best at making sure that his whole team is up with him and just to uplift everyone. That's where it's at.
So how do you lead as a quarterback? I'm sitting next to two great quarterbacks from college football and in the NFL. Like, what's your leadership style?
Yeah, I'm definitely show first. I don't talk right away. I let you see how I work, and I gain that respect. And after I feel I gain your respect, then it's just a very mutual conversation after that. I'm gonna get on you. You can get back on me. Like, just keep things very 100 with each other. And I feel like that's the best way to allow somebody to know their mistakes and let them know what they're doing good as well. Never get too low, never get too high with anyone, but just continue to acknowledge that when they do good and critique when they do bad.
Yeah. There was one game last year when I was watching you, is Utah State. I'm sure you remember the game. Y'all were in a hole early. I think you were down like 17-0. You have a touchdown run wiped out by a holding call or whatever it was. All of a sudden, you start absolutely lighting them up. And you end up beating them pretty good. I think it was like 48-45, some ridiculous performance. I think that spoke to your leadership, is that you're in a hole early, and yet, boom, on the road, we're going to flip the switch. We're going to get it going again. You're going to see some tough defenses in this league. You know that. If you do get in that hole early, what did you draw from last year that you could maybe apply this year to some maybe difficult starts that you might face?
Yep, just that belief. You know, I try to carry myself in a way where not only do my words speak, but my actions speak as well. Body language is huge, so just allow my team to know, you know, I'm still in this, like, and I need all y'all to be with me, right behind me, because football is not a one-man sport. So, you know, if we're gonna flip this thing around, it's got to be all of us. So, just to carry that, and you know, the brotherhood we have already. I don't even know if I need to worry about it. Them boys is ready.
Devin, I'm curious. The playmaker that you are, the season that you had last year, when you entered the portal, why was Utah the right fit?
Yeah, you know, I had a special relationship with my OC already, Jason Beck, and I mean, man, it's very easy to run an offense when your coach fully believes in your talents. He feels like he can call anything just because of the belief in me, and just to have that freedom out there, you know, I feel like I can play at my best.
By the way, the game you were referencing with him, he got the coveted college football final helmet sticker that week.
Did you?
Yeah, that was a big one for them.
I mean, you went off. I mean, it was like,
hey, love watching you. Good luck this year. think you found a good home at Utah. Keep the SaberCats proud.
Yes,
I know
got
you will. Devin Dampier, Utah quarterback. He's stepping into a good situation out there with a team that's ready to compete for a Big 12 championship. That's our Utah coverage. Devin, thank you so much. When we return, we talked to Brent Brennan earlier in the show. From one good quarterback to another, Noah Fafida of Arizona. He's going to join us. We're going to talk some Cats when we return. Welcome back to Big 12 Media Days, powered by Microsoft Copilot, your everyday AI companion. You know, it's about time we get back to the Conference of Quarterbacks. We just had Devin Dampier, Noah Fafida now joining us from Arizona. We were just talking about it during the break, Noah, and you went to the Manning Passing Academy, a lot of Big 12 representation there. I mean, how good, and you're one of them, are the quarterbacks in this league?
They're great. It's like we were talking about before during the break. It's a conference of quarterbacks. We got some really special quarterbacks here, but more importantly, we got some special people. Got to spend the weekend at the Manning Passing Academy and build some great relationships there with Jaylen Daniels and Avery Johnson, among others. So fantastic conference. Looking forward to compete. For you now, coming off last year, what is your goal to improve upon from what you did a year ago? Yeah, individually, just kind of, I have 2 years under my belt now, so using that experience and then using Coach Deggy. He's super experienced, he's super smart, one of the best offensive minds I've ever been around, so just kind of learn from him, building that relationship with him, trying to be the smartest, most prepared player on the field, and then trying to become more of a threat with my legs as well.
It's got to be helpful, though, to play for a guy that's calling the plays that was in this league and played in this league and knows this league and understands the terrain and what it's like and what we go through on a game-to-game basis. So have you picked kind of his brain on how he approaches game day? I know you haven't done it yet. You haven't played a game yet, but you've kind of talked about what that interaction will be when you guys are teeing it up.
Yes, sir, definitely. We've talked about it, and we've built a fantastic relationship from the moment he got on campus. That's a big reason I wanted to stay at Arizona, to play for him. Like I said, he's probably the best scheme I've ever seen from an offensive standpoint, but he's a fantastic person, and we'll hang out in his office all the time and just talk stories. So I've heard a lot of stories about his playing days. Like you said, he knows the Big 12 in and out, played in it, and now he's coaching in it. So we're definitely going to lean on that leadership, lean on that experience.
Noah, I always love talking with quarterbacks, and I'm fascinated with what you guys do in your off seasons to try to get better. Who do you study on film? Which quarterback coach are you working with? I'm curious, what has your off season looked like?
Yeah, my off season's been hectic for sure. We have a lot of goals, a lot of expectations that we have for me individually, but more importantly for our team that we're trying to live up to this season. So done a lot of work with Coach Deggy, like I've said, from a scheme standpoint. I believe I work with the best quarterback coaches in the country, and 3D QB with Taylor Kelly, Adam Dato, and John Beck. And then just kind of obviously the offseason grind with the guys, building that culture. This is where you build the foundation. This is where you build the brotherhood, build the love that gets you through the season, and that's what we're aiming towards.
Working with the Sun Devil, Taylor Kelly.
Yeah, again, we've learned today we can all come together at some point. You said you've got 2 years under your belt now. 2 interesting years. First year, you guys sky high. Hell of a season, surprised a lot of people.
Yes, sir.
Year 2 goes down a little bit. Now that you've experienced both, what's it going to take to get back to that level?
Yeah, now we know. I mean, there's one constant through the good and through the bad, and that's God. That's my relationship with God. He's the only reason that somebody of my stature could play at this level. So my faith is definitely guiding me through the good times and through the bad. So definitely leaning on that, but also just kind of building the culture, building the mentality and belief. Everybody in the locker room right now is Coach Brennan's guy. We either stayed for Coach Brennan or we came here for Coach Brennan. So we have a unwavering belief in him. We have an unwavering belief in our coordinators that they can lead us to where we want to get to, and that's a Big 12 championship.
Are those glasses like video glasses?
Yeah, what did yeah.
I'm like, look at that. Like, are those cameras on the side?
Yeah, they're the new Meta. They're the new Meta glasses. So I got to shout out my dad for wearing these. He gave them to me. So
what do they do?
Yeah, they got a lot of things. So it's AI, so I could talk to Meta, and then he'll give me some or she'll give me some answers. Technology is crazy these days, so. Yeah, shout out my dad.
Man,
look at the sounds like that. Are they taking a picture of us? What's going on here?
That guy was like, he's recording something. I know. Noah, good luck this year, man. You're an exciting player to watch. Continued health, continued success. You know, Katie, back in the day in Arizona, it was known as Desert Swarm in that defense. I know the guys you're talking to are hoping to get it back to that level.
Yeah, Matt, I'm with 2 members of the secondary, Genesis Smith as well as Dalton Johnson. Guys, it's so good to be with you guys today. You're both looking really sharp. I love the fits. Prada, I think I saw Louis Vuitton over here a little bit. Yeah.
Thank you.
When you think back to a year ago, year 1 under Brent Brennan, new head coach, how would you describe it?
Yeah, I would definitely say a switch up. You know, a new coaching staff comes in. You know, they have their techniques and their ways of doing things, and it's kind of blindsiding, you know. But you know, we decided to stay, bought into Coach B, and the season didn't go the way we wanted it to. But you know, we got a redemption season coming up, so it'll be all right.
It's worth mentioning, you said you decided to stay. Both of you went into the portal after the season, but ultimately returned. What made you return?
I'd say just the brotherhood we have going on. It's been the same since we got here, never wavered through the wins, the losses. It's always been the same love, same attention to detail daily. And I'm just here to run it back with my brothers, trying to recreate a winning season.
And why do you feel like this group is capable of turning things around? I have to imagine you're feeling more comfortable in Brennan's systems. You know, there's a lot to learn and get used to. In year 2, everything often works better.
Yeah, I would say, you know, we understand the standard, and that standard's high, and everyone's bought in. And like you said, you know, we understand what Coach B wants us to do, and, you know, we just get it done.
Danny Gonzalez was elevated from linebackers coach and special teams coordinator to defensive coordinator. What's it been like having that transition happen and him lead the defense?
It's been great. He's definitely changed some attitudes around the building, really emphasized red line for us, which is effort, execution, accountability, and just pushing that standard daily. And I feel like that just elevated us as a whole defense and a whole team.
Has he changed anything schematically from what you did a year ago?
Yeah, there's a few different things that we do. You know, maybe some more games up front and little different disguises and looks in the back end. So, you know, he keeps it, you know, new and fresh each week.
You seem to be a ball hawk Genesis with interceptions, turnovers, forcing, you know, fumbles. Why do you have such a knack for that?
I would say just growing up, playing with my brothers, backyard football. That's just what it seems to be out there. Just always trying to get the ball. That's what it is to me out there.
And Dalton, you led the defense with 94 total tackles a season ago. How much responsibility do you feel being a leader of the back end?
A lot. I always say safety is one of the hardest positions in football. You know, you got to take care of your corners and your nickels, and as well as your other safety out there with you. But I wouldn't say there's not too much pressure. You know, with Trayden Stukes and Genesis Smith, you know, we have a great connection back there, so it just makes it go a whole lot easier.
Well, I wish you both the best of luck in this upcoming season. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate you.
Good luck. Big 12 Media Days rolls on here in Frisco, Texas. We'll have our first quarterback breakdown of the day with Greg McElroy when we return.
We're good. All right, so we got a couple plays pulled. This will be you. I'll like tell you, and you can just kind of talk through it.
All right,
cool.
Yep. So we're talking some ball, huh?
Oh yeah, we don't mess around here.
All right, perfect.
Comfy? Yes, sir. I got you. Yep. Play 1. Should be. Yeah. Good plays, by the way.
It's also available over here.
Okay. I still don't know how you got there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, sir, Ski.
Alrighty. So that's the first play.
Uh-huh.
Kelly's good. Play 2. Should be pressure off the right. Yep. Roll right. Fit it.
Q scan.
Sick. Alrighty, and then the last one, you should make a check at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Double move at the bottom, out the gate.
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Q scan again.
Good?
Yes, sir.
All right, beautiful.
Doug. Q Skin, let's stay level-headed, man. Let's stay level-headed.
I got you. All right. Are they tossing to me or no? Okay. All righty. Welcome back. It is Big 12 Media Days here 2025 from the Star in Frisco, Texas. Day 2 rolls along, and we are getting into the fun part where we actually get to some tape, we get to some telestrations, we get to talk a little ball, and we'll do so now with the quarterback of the Kansas Jayhawks, Jaylen Daniels. Jaylen, what's going on, man?
Yes, sir. I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Can I just call you JD?
Yeah, for sure.
I keep saying Jayden Daniels, and
trust me, I get that a lot.
It's easy to happen, right? I'm going to just say JD will work with that.
That's
man.
fine.
You have had such an awesome career.
Yes, sir.
You've had some challenges, some injury challenges, but
100%.
man, sounds like talking to Coach Leipold, you're as healthy as you've ever been. How are you feeling right now?
First of all, I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be here, blessed to be healthy, blessed to be able to be in the position I'm in, to be able to do what I do. I'm feeling great, man. I'm excited. We got a lot of new guys on the team, a lot of new faces, a lot of people that people haven't heard of yet, and I'm very excited to get to August 23rd. Let's just say that.
No, I think you should be, man. It's going to be a great year for you. It seems like last year, like everything that could go wrong did. And then this year, it's like we really weren't that far away last year.
Yeah.
Has that kind of been the message in the team?
Yeah, I mean, well, absolutely. You have to be able to, convey that message to everybody, especially during a season such as that one. But I feel like the biggest message that we continue to harp on is, stay on that 1-0 track. You can say it, put it around walls everywhere you want, write it down, put it in your screenshots of your notes. But if you don't actually live by that, trying to attain 1-0 every single day, it won't happen. So I feel like we just try not to look too far in the future, but definitely not harping on the past and just staying where our feet are.
I love it. How about we dive into some tape?
Let's do it, man.
All right, so we pulled some clips from Iowa State.
Okay.
Pretty good game for you.
Yes, sir.
Pretty good game. All right, and you did some things in this game that were just insane. This first throw, I still am trying to figure out how you got there. All right, so you have a safety that is deep here in the middle.
Yep.
You're trying to run a guy over the top, but that safety could take it the whole way. You don't care.
100%.
You just look at it, you say, forget about it, I could fit it anyways, and you do.
Yeah.
How do you get to that throw?
Okay, so over there in the boundary, we have two posts in the boundary. We have a wheel route by Devin running out to the rail. And backside, we also have like a corner stop route by our tight end. So the corner stop route is kind of what kept that backside safety occupied. So I knew that the backside safety wouldn't be able to make a play. It was just about number 2 receiver being able to win. So if you look on that clip, you see Lou Grimm running for a second, and I threw it to him a little bit late. So I'm like, let me make sure that the safety is attached to that backside bite route. And that's exactly why I was on the rope. Because if I knew that the backside safety was 100% out of play, without like any type of regards with what my receiver was doing, I probably would have gave him more air. But I had to fit the ball in there. Luke Grimm made a great play, became wide open, and he ran down the field and scored for the Jayhawks.
I mean, that was a ridiculous throw. All the tape I watched throughout the whole entire week prepping for this, like that was probably my favorite throw. I'm just going to be honest with you. And
Thank you.
There are a lot of good ones that we saw with all the great quarterback play in this league. All right, this next one, this is what I think you do as well as anybody off schedule, right? Anytime you have pressure, you're going to see pressure all up inside. You are going to escape out to your right, keep your eyes downfield, no problem whatsoever, and deliver a strike. So when the chaos is happening up front, you have your wheels, but you want to keep your eyes downfield, man. How do you do 100%. This so regularly?
So in this play right here, you can see that I looked to the boundary first, and I didn't like the look. This play, if the boundary's not open, you roll out to the right to be able to get to the rest of the concept because there's one single right over there in the boundary. Everybody else is flooding the field. I looked to the boundary. I didn't like the look. It was press coverage, and we had a hitch, and I'm like, forget it. We have a lot more plays where if I want to be able to take a hitch, I can take it. So actually end up bringing pressure.
Yeah.
I peeped that after I started to roll out because I wasn't looking that way yet. And as soon as I rolled out, I'm rolling out, and I'm like, I see that there is a under route that I can take. But when there's an under route and there's a big boy route,
yeah,
which one do you really want?
I think you take the deep level.
You take the deep one.
No doubt about it.
You absolutely take the deep one. Once we roll out, we believe in reading that high to low. So I go out, I roll out, I see Q scan. He breaks off the DB. As soon as he breaks the DB off and he comes off him, I'm like, oh, there's nobody over there. All right, let him run. Let him run.
Well,
6'5", make a play. He can do it.
You dropped it in the bucket perfectly on that throw. It was awesome. I love this last one, too, particularly because of situation. All right, 3rd and 3.
Yep.
DB's thinking, all right, they're just trying to move the chains. They're not going deep here. Why would you go deep on 3rd and 3?
Yep.
You make a little bit of a check. You give them a hand signal or whatnot. Double move. 88 and out the gate down here to the bottom side.
Yes, sir.
3rd and 3, man. They're thinking you're just trying to move the chains. They squat on it, gets behind them. See ya.
100%. I forgot what exact play we had called before this, but that whole entire week, Coach Z was like, Coach Z is our quarterback, offensive coordinator now. He said, if you see this look and you like it, JD, you have the keys, take it.
Yeah.
And this was the first play that I did that the whole entire season, and I'm like, all right, forget it. It's 8 seconds left on the clock. Switch the play. Hey, red. We get to the ball.
Yeah.
I look out there. I see the safety look at my slot receiver on his sluggo, and I'm like, if he's chasing my inside receiver, that corner better be chasing that outside receiver. I look back down to the outside receiver. Cornerback still sitting in the flats. I'm like, oh, wow. Let's go ahead. Let him run. Give him the ball.
It was a nice route, too. It was a patient route because
100%.
you saw him set up the corner. Corner slipped inside. He thinks he's running, breaking across his face.
Uh-huh.
See ya.
Shout out Q Skin, man. Shout out Q Skin. Making it work.
It's awesome stuff, man. Can't wait to see you back this year. Can't wait to see you healthy. Full season. Great year for the Jayhawks, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
All right, buddy. Good luck this year. We'll send it back up to Katie and Brock for some reaction from my man, JD.
One love, baby.
Thanks, Greg. I have to say, yes, there's so much quarterback talent in the Big 12 this season, but gosh, these quarterbacks have unbelievable personalities. I could easily see Jaylen Daniels in TV after his career.
Yeah, let's toss it back to him. Let's keep it going.
Keep him going, Greg. Golly. Speaking of his health, what does a healthy Jaylen Daniels do for this Kansas team this season, do you think?
I think it does everything. In fact, I think it makes Kansas a contender to win the Big 12 title. If you think back 2 years ago, when Jaylen Daniels first emerged on the national scene and he was healthy, I mean, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the country.
Yeah.
And he's still that guy. You think back to last season, yes, the numbers were down a bit. Yes, he was banged up once again. But when he was healthy and he was playing his best football, he beat BYU. He beat Colorado. He beat Iowa State. And he took Arizona State, who won the conference title, to the brink. So to your point, Katie, if Jaylen Daniels is healthy, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country.
They went 4-5 in conference play a season ago, 5-7 overall, just missing out on a bowl. Do you feel like he has the necessary pieces around him to be able to climb in the standings in the Big 12?
Yeah, and that's really the big question with the Jayhawks. But talking with head coach Lance Leipold earlier, you know, he feels really confident with the depth that he has. He feels good about his offensive line. He feels good about the pieces that he brought in throughout the portal to surround Jaylen Daniels with. So that is the big question. We're not going to know until week 1. But once again, when you have a quarterback like Jaylen Daniels of that caliber, you always have a chance.
Where do you feel like they're weakest? Not to be negative, but...
Well, the first question you have, how do you replace Devin Neal, the all-time leading rusher for the Kansas Jayhawks? Those are the biggest shoes to fill. Yes, you have some pieces on the roster that filled that running back room a season ago with experience, but those are really big shoes to fill.
What do you think is a realistic record for Kansas moving forward?
You know, it's impossible to project these things in the Big 12. I think back to last season, everyone at this time at Big 12 Media Days said Arizona State was going to take dead last. 16 out of 16. And what did they do?
How wrong they were.
They went out to prove everybody wrong. And they had an unbelievable season. So when you try to project these schools and the way, you know, there's now a salary cap and all these portal additions and you see these roster overhauls, it's really hard to predict, but I will say this. If Jaylen Daniels stays healthy, Kansas is for sure going bowling.
Who could be the Arizona State this season?
Well, Kansas could be there. I think really the one that I look at is Utah. Okay. And the reason why I say Utah, you could say, well, they're not really a dark horse. It's still Utah. They won a couple Pac-12 titles. They were playing for Rose Bowls just a couple years ago, but they were 5-7 a season ago. But the thing that I like about the Utes, when Kyle Whittingham, when he's going to be your head coach, you know you're going to have a physical brand of football. You're going to win at the line of scrimmage. They return all 5 starters on their offensive line. They have 2 potential first-round picks. I shouldn't say potential, future first-round picks at the tackle position. And you also return the top 25 defense and a lot of key pieces there. So if Utah can get quality quarterback play, which we just visited with quarterback Devin Dampier, who transferred in from New Mexico, if he lives up to the billing that he's getting in the offseason and how he played last year for the Lobos, I think Utah is going to be contending for the title.
Ooh, I love it. Well, let's hit a break. Deion Sanders is wrapping up on the podium right now, which means Matt Barry is getting ready to host a roundtable with all 8 coaches here today representing their programs. We've got more rolling on here in Frisco, Texas from Big 12 Media Days.
Thank you for your time today.
That's it?
Yes, sir.
I get to leave now?
Yes, sir.
God bless you all. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Welcome back to Big 12 Media Days here in Frisco, Texas. It's hot outside. It's cold in the Star. Greg McElroy joining Brock and I back at the desk. We thought Jaylen was fantastic. What do you think of his ability to break down his own plays?
That was awesome. I mean, it's so fun to watch him play, you know, and I mean, it's really kind of a joy, and it's been kind of like a guilty pleasure over the last couple of weeks, like pulling these plays. It's like there's so many to choose from, but with him in particular, when he's on, like, you're not stopping him. I mean, and it's been a couple years now since we've seen him on regularly. I mean, remember, this was a couple years back when Lance Leipold first got the job and everyone's saying this is an impossible gig. I mean, how do you win? All this other stuff. Well, trots out this quarterback and they reel off 6 straight wins and they're ranked in the top 10 like immediately, and it's kind of miraculous just how good Lance Leipold is, but that marriage between head coach and quarterback is a special thing.
Yeah, it really is. Well, let's send it to the coaches round table where Matt Barry is up there getting ready to go. It's where AI meets the mind, shaping the game.
It's the health of the game. 2 coaches up here now, been at their respective schools for 21 years. Whit, you've been at Utah for 21 years. Mike Gundy's been at Oklahoma State for 21, and you've been in the league the longest since the realignment. And I just want to know from you how this league has evolved over the years since you've been in it.
Well, there's a lot of change with the new schools that are coming in, and I said this earlier, I think it's drawn a lot of interest across the country, and there's still some newness to it, which is good for viewership. We have very recognizable head coaches, and the good thing about this league is, or the bad thing for coaches is, there's so much parity.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't know if anybody can sit here and think this is going to be a win or this is going to be a loss, and I think that's great. I feel like that we have the best commissioner in all of sports, and he gives us a chance to continue to grow and develop this league every year.
Yeah, and Rich Rod, coming back in now, West Virginia, you've been outside looking in. How would you assess what you've seen on the outside of the Big 12 the past few years?
Well, first off, what's changed is that we get paid pretty good, too, now. You know, a couple guys standing right there got our start in small colleges, and so I don't think any of us got into the profession for the money. But there's a responsibility when you're getting that much money getting spent on coaches and on players now and on programs. You have a responsibility to have a good product out there for your fans and for college football. And, again, I've been in the league just for a couple months now, and there's no question. If you look at the quarterbacks coming back in the Big 12, look at the staffs that are in the Big 12 and the players and talents in the Big 12, we have one of the best leagues in the country, and it's probably going to be the most exciting league to watch every weekend.
Yeah, and Coach Prime, you touched on it a minute ago, Brett Yormark and what he's done for this conference. What does this league, in your mind, need to do to sustain itself among the elite in terms of talking about elite leagues in college football?
We just got to keep kicking each other's butt, and that's the problem. Everybody's so darn good up here, you can't just think you're going to go into any of these cities or have them come to you and have a win. You just got to keep evolving, and that's tough, especially with NIL, and that's tough with just the retention of some players that you're trying to keep. It's tremendous. I think everybody now has learned tremendously about the portal. You've learned about the finances, and you're not just coaches anymore. Now you got to understand this is a business, and you got to conduct this like it's a business.
And it's a good jumping off point for the next question. Whit, I want to ask you about that because you've been around a long time. You've been around the sport. You've seen it change year in and year out. Brian was talking about it a minute ago, the windows, the NIL, the transfer portal. In your mind, what needs to happen to make this whole sport cohesive again?
Great question. I think everyone's searching for that answer. It's just, it's all boiling down to try to create a level playing field, if that's possible. There's never really been a level playing field in college football, but I just think that